Hello, this is Greg Allison with Green Greg's Garden and Worm Farm, coming to you tonight on the 12th of May with a special guest, Stacy Zivicki. And she has a great channel. She's a homesteader, has a great homestead prepping type channel called Sustainable Stewards. And I got that wrong on Rex's show last night. My apologies.
That's okay.
I
That's
got
okay.
my wires crossed. Us electrical engineers sometimes do that.
You had a lot of topics on your mind, so that happens.
That is true. So Stacy has had a very interesting vision. Now, Stacy's a very smart girl and a very good uh, prepper, a good young farmer, hard worker. But this vision is something that, she wouldn't have understood on her own. And that gives it a lot of credibility to me. What really gives me the credibility about her vision, and we'll let her tell you about it in a minute. But I have long worked in electrical engineering, strategic defense. I've worked for the Strategic Defense Initiative under the, what was back at the time, uh, space, it was called the SDC back in the Space Defense Command, now it's Space Missile Defense Command, on a project called ERIS, Exo-Atmospheric Reach and Interceptor Subsystem. So
Okay.
these are things I know a little bit about.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've chaired 2 power grid defense conferences, worried about the power grid. And
Mhm.
a little later, I started this YouTube channel. And I started out as a prepper. No, actually, it's an urban farming channel. And it kind of evolved into a prep steader type channel, kind of like Stacy's doing. And because people knew I'd done power grid defense, they asked me about, to cover that topic. And it really made my subscribers list take off. That said, what gives me credibility about her vision is this. Not only did she not know anything about an EMP and have this vision about it, but she really picked up on a very key strategic tactical nuance that would take a very well educated researcher in this topic to think of. I have thought of this because I know that we have a soft underbelly to our south in our nation. The dew line, which is our array of radars that's been looking for decades for what was originally a Soviet, now Russian missile attack, is all in Canada and Greenland and places like that, looking north over the North Pole, where we expected these things to come from. Now, we do look some now toward Korea, maybe China, and to the east in case we get something from Russia coming that way. But our southern border, or the southern part of this nation, which is not really so much a border except for Mexico, is the Gulf of Mexico. And we don't really have much down there in the way of assets, nothing looking for anything like this coming at us. And if a country wants to attack us with an EMP, they could do it from that direction with even a suborbital system, a balloon launched rocket of the type I launched back in the era of the late 90s and early 2000s, which the
Okay.
ones I carried had enough payload capacity to carry a system like that, and the techniques I've used were valid for that kind of a launch. That said, the pardon me, I'm clearing my throat.
That's okay.
That said, these systems, well, the concept that she saw, what she saw matches what I think, because if you're a nation and you want to launch an attack like this on the United States, you want deniability. You don't want the United States to be able to point a finger and say it was them or those or that. So if you go, say, off the coast of a unstable country, I mean, you can do this in the sea, then, there's a certain unstable country to our south known as Venezuela. They are a basket case. And in Venezuela, we have a big conglomeration of people that are somewhat less than totally friendly at the governmental level against this nation at its governmental level. And that is the players in that area are no less than Russia, China, North Korea, and Iran.
Okay. Okay.
Now,
I
given,
wasn't aware about Iran. I wasn't aware about Iran at all.
yeah, well, they're all involved down there. And it's mainly Russia and China. Of those, I'd be more concerned with China. But it just so happens that North Korea, a few years ago, had a tramp steamer known as the Chong Gang steaming around in that area. And it went back through the Panama Canal after it completed whatever it was doing. And it was held for inspection. And they unpacked all these loads of sugar in the whole cargo hold and found 2 missile launchers and also shipping containers with fully erect missiles on the launchers inside. They were steaming around in those waters in the Gulf and the Caribbean Sea with this stuff. And maybe they were doing a dry run of practice just to see what they could get away with. So that's a scary proposition. Why they brought them back through? Maybe they just didn't want to lose their assets. You know, they could have hit them. But they probably went through the other way before they did all that. Because I
Okay.
doubt if they went around the Cape south of, you know, Cape down in the tip of South America.
South America.
So
Wow. Wow.
through the Strait of Magellan, I seriously doubt, you know, that's a rough sea. People sell that, they do that, but they probably wanted to avoid that expensive mobilization and go through there. It takes a lot of fuel and time, but they could have done that and snuck up on us. They absolutely could.
Sure.
Uh,
Sure.
they have ships that are capable of that. That said, um, you know, there's a lot to be concerned with here.
Right.
So
Right.
Stacy, I think it's time for you to tell us a little bit about yourself and then tell us about
Okay.
your vision.
I'll just introduce myself. My name is Stacy. I am married to a wonderful husband. We're going to be married 22 years this September. Um, it's been a wonderful marriage. So I've got two beautiful daughters. My oldest is 20. She's going to have a baby the beginning of this August, and then I've got my 11-year-old Ruby, and Ruby's my little farm helper here. She's the one that you see in the videos, and you know my oldest is out and she's married. So I'm going to be a grandma this August, which is kind of
Wow.
mind blowing to me.
I've been a grandpa all my life. I was born a grandpa. I got a granddaughter that's just graduating high school.
Yeah, it's exciting. And so with that said, part of the reason I do what I do is because of these dreams and visions that I in particular have had for the past 10 to 12 years. But also my children, the dreams and visions they've had. I started out doing I've always been self-sufficient. I've always gardened. My whole family has. I mean, I grew up under my grandma's feet, you know, watching her. My great grandma, you know, we've always done this. But about 12 years ago, it became a passion to grow 100% of our produce and our meats, to be totally self-sufficient in those two areas and then work from there. And then about 9 years ago, I started a CSA, which stands for Community Supported Agriculture. So I provide food shares for anywhere from 25 to 35 plus families, including pastured meats and stuff like that. So that's
Nice.
kind of what I do. But the reason I do that is because years back, we really started diving into the Bible and the things, biblical things, you know, about 10 years ago. Came into something a little something called the Holy Spirit, and found out through reading scriptures that God actually does talk to people and his children and others, you know, through dreams and visions, and it's very clear that he does that. So it was something at the time I was very open to, and sought after, you know, prayerfully sought after that. Had a series of introductory visions within the church that, you know, on a Sunday service that we were going to, one of which was a rock fall. The Lord told me it was to the west of the West, and then I saw islands in the South Pacific, which was like the Filipino islands, you know, in that area. And 7 days to the day that I gave the prophecy in church, which I was very nervous, may I add, I go on the Drudge Report, and literally the headlines on the top was massive rock fall in this, you know, where they were going for coal or whatever they were. And it was literally the mountain I saw with the rock fall. Sent it to the pastor, sent it to my friends, and all of them were like, wow, you know, and of course I was the most humbled out of it. And that was the first thing that the Lord had showed me that had come to pass. And there had been a series of international things like that came to pass, a series of personal dreams, even the fact that we would move into a Amish home. I had a dream years ago about us moving into the Amish. I'm like, I'm not going to become Amish. I'm self-sufficient and I'm all about being modest, but I'm not going to become Amish. And lo and behold, you know, we're in this Amish property and we own this home.
I can
So
see
many
it, the
things.
Amish YouTuber,
Yes.
the Amish computer.
Yep. Yep. So, you know, there was many things like that, even personal. I called my friend Anna Marie, who'll be watching this, and I got friends that can validate this and the thing. I said, I had a vision. Her husband was working for the DOT at the time on the roads. And I said, you need to tell your husband to keep his crew on a short leash because there's a semi that's going to hit somebody. They're going to hit somebody. And we all were praying, and she told her husband about this. And what ended up happening was, and you know, the Lord will do one thing to keep another thing from happening.
Uh-huh.
A big piece of equipment fell on this gentleman's foot, and it actually crushed his foot, but it kept him in that spot. And a semi come roaring through. And her husband, Tom, said, had that piece of equipment that crushed his foot, he would have been killed by that semi. So it's things like this that have built my faith in Jesus and the fact that he speaks to his children. And now I felt a very deep calling to share these most important dreams and visions, and one in particular about a major event that I believe is going to happen, because even the COVID-19 pandemic, we knew about that for the past couple years. We knew that that was going to come to I had a dream that I was at my grandmother's and we were waiting for my grandmother to die. Now, my grandmother passed the beginning of December, Greg, all right? She was in a home. The whole dream, it was all personal information about her being in the home, the family even getting in a fight about stuff that all came to pass, and that she passed. And the Holy Spirit said, and took me up above her house and said, it's going to get very dark. And I saw the spirit of death come down, a black cloud, just as you would see in the movie Moses, how it went through the Israel camp, and he had to put the blood on the doorsteps and go within. And he said, when your grandmother passes away, you need to get home, stay home, close your doors, be prayerful, be wise, and be ready, be prepared, because you need to stay home and you're not going to be leaving for some time. And so we kind of knew that there was going to be, we didn't know the extent of what it was. And then my 11-year-old had a dream that Trump was in the public school over here and he pushed a button and closed all the schools. And everybody was trying to get food. And one in particular thing she kept saying, the toilet paper, you know, the toilet paper.
Oh my gosh, she's the prophet. The toilet paper preppers. Who can imagine that?
So, you know, these things
Wow.
We have seen these things coming, and we prepared. You know, that was the biggest thing. We prepared, and we told as many people as we could.
These visions that you had were visions that were validating visions. You had these things to build your confidence, to understand and have faith in the bigger things you're seeing. That's what it meant for you. For me, it was the technical accuracy of the most plausible means for things to happen that you saw that really rung my bells. It's like, holy smoke. You know, I've credited you being a smart girl, and you are, but how's a farm girl from Wisconsin understand something that a lot of people that are steeped in military strategy aren't even aware of? It's like,
it's above my pay grade, Greg. It's way above my pay grade.
Oh, with God and Jesus, what would be above your pay grade? He looked at you as being the messenger to tell us about this.
Yes. And I'll start with that, and I'll just give you a short overview. The first vision I had about this event, which I didn't even know, I was sitting in church on a Sunday morning and I saw the American flag get hit by a bolt of lightning. I then saw the dams, I saw the mills, I saw the cars come to a complete stop. And the Holy Spirit told me that there would be a time of wandering. There would be much work to be done for people's bellies would swell with hunger, but they would have no way to get there. So that was the first one I had, and the Spirit was so heavy on me. I was literally shaken under the power, and prayerfully started praying about that. I mean, didn't even know what to do with it at the time. Then I had another dream. Had a dream that my oldest daughter my youngest daughter, and my oldest daughter was 20, 21, and my youngest one was 11 or 12. We were driving to the town that my husband works at to go have lunch with him in a Subaru, may I add, which at the time we did not own a Subaru, and we own a Subaru now. We didn't go out and buy a Subaru because I had this dream either. It just happened. Okay. And all at once we were on the highway and I saw a flash. I just saw a white flash in the sky and all the vehicles came to a stop. And I looked at my daughters and they said, what about Dad? What about, and then Ruby even said, what about Rihanna's loved one, which is now her husband, who she didn't have at the time. I said, they're going to be okay. They know the plan. We're getting our bags. We need to get home. We have to defend the home till the men get there. That's our job. That's our place. And so we started walking home. And in that dream, immediately the plan to get home during this event was downloaded into me. I didn't even know what the event was at that time. And that's when I really started. I went, okay, these two things are linked, because it was lightning. It was a flash of white lightning. And then it was this flash. And so I started looking. I didn't even know how to do it. I started typing in bombs in the sky, and I came across EMP, electromagnetic, and I went, oh, the electricity. But then I still didn't know how it worked. So I was on this just seeking for the truth and how these things worked. So I knew immediately with that second dream that we needed to start preparing, but I didn't have a time frame. I didn't have any knowledge of that. I would have another dream where the Lord would show us, we weren't on this property yet, would show us a property on the corner. And he would say that it would be a safe house. I'm building this. And he would show us that we would have people coming to us, that we were going to feed them. We were going to house them for the duration of the time that they were with us until God would send them to their next destination. And then I had an angel in the dream say, look at that TV. And I looked at the TV and I saw a nuclear bomb, but it went off above the ground. It didn't hit the ground. It went off, in the sky. So now at this time, I'm a little frustrated because we've had all these visions and these dreams that have come to pass, personal, international. I'm like, okay, this is going to happen. You've proven that to us, Lord. But how can we plan for something if we don't have a time frame? How because it's really hard to do that,
Uh-huh.
So for 3 months, I did a lot of fasting and praying and pressed in and literally just begged God to give me a time frame. And he gave me 2 dreams, one with my grandma dying, because in that, then he said the next event will be after that. And then this specific dream that I'm going to tell you about now, that I had this last summer, as a matter of fact, that I woke and I was shook and bawling. I was woke crying. I had to call everybody. He showed a tractor that we have to buy, that we're going to be entering into a barter with somebody to buy a Ford tractor. Then we went in a Saturn car to pick this tractor up. The tractor just represents work, represents heavy lifting, that's going to have to be done. And when we got into the car, the gentleman that was taking me to get the tractor, I looked in the back seat and Jesus was sitting in the back seat and he was very quiet. And the gentleman kept saying to me, this is a 2000 Saturn. Remember that. This car hasn't been driven since 2000, but it's a good car and it's going to come back around. You're going to know when it's going to come back around because when you wake up, you're going to look it up. And then immediately in the dream, I knew that he was talking about the planet Saturn. He wasn't talking about the car. It was just used as a tool, for my understanding. We go through the town and I look out the window and I roll down the window and a book floats up from the right-hand side and it lands on my lap. And it's a thick book. And in the dream, it's all in Hebrew on the cover and I'm reading it in the dream. And it literally says, this is the book of the names of the dead that will pass away if you don't sound the warning call. And I started flipping through and it was all these names in Hebrew. People that I loved, people I didn't know. And I immediately in the dream started crying because I knew God had given me this great responsibility to warn people about this event, that if they didn't start to prepare, that they were going to die, they were going to perish. So in the dream, I repented. and of course that I was sorry, and I promised that I would tell as many people as possible. At that point, Jesus put his hand on my shoulder and he said, daughter, you're forgiven, but too much is given, much is expected. And of course I made him that promise. And immediately at that point, when he said that, boom, I went up above the United States. And I could hear Jesus still talking to me. And he said, daughter, what do you see? And I looked around and I said, this is my country. And he said, now what do you see? And I was looking to the south, past Florida, down towards Venezuela, in that area. And I saw a missile come up, and it came up and it flew high, and it came along the eastern seaboard, and it went off around the Appalachians, like, and it took it out. It just took out the entire eastern seaboard. The lights just boom, boom, boom. But just, you know, it was like I could see the lights just going off, you know, as it, you know, and it spread as it spread. And he said, now what do you see? And I saw another one coming over from the same area, but then it started coming towards the middle of the country. And right around Missouri, you know, that kind of like right in the middle, Iowa, you know, Kansas, that it went off in the sky. And I saw the whole of the Midwest in the middle of the United States just go black. And then he said to me, and what about the West Coast, daughter? And I said, I looked down back at Jesus and I said, well, they aren't going to have to do anything with the West Coast, because these two are going to be so catastrophic that they are going to mess with the magnetosphere, and there's going to be great catastrophic events, earthquakes and things like that on the West Coast that they won't have to worry about. Now, Greg, I didn't even know what at the time, I never heard of magnetosphere. I have no clue what the word magnetosphere was. Okay, so immediately that morning I woke up and had to look up these things. Then I came back down in the car, and Jesus looked at me again and said, now remember, this is a 2000 Saturn, and this Saturn is going to be coming around again. And when the Saturn comes around again, that is when you and your family are to be ready for this event. Now, Greg, I'm not saying that this event is going to happen right when I say, but that's when we need to be ready for that, okay? When I woke up in the morning, I looked up, you know, Saturn alignments, Saturn, you know, whatever. And there's something called a Saturnalian alignment. You know, the last time this thing happened was back in 2000. The car I was in was a 2000. The next time this alignment is to come back around is in December of 2020. And then, of course, I looked up the word magnetosphere and found out that EMPs can mess with that terribly. You know, I mean, so like I said, I'm not making the argument that in December of 2020 that we are going to get hit by these EMPs and it's going to be then. But Jesus told me that our family should be ready by December of 2020. So take that for what it is. I've had enough of these things come to pass to know that if he tells us to be ready, to be ready. I immediately that morning called, a dozen people bawling, literally bawling. And I had even close friends that have witnessed these things come to pass that I've given them, that with this event that I've been warning them about, kind of sit back and take a back seat to it and not really take it seriously. After that, they did. When I told them there was going to be this quarantine event, everybody would have to be staying home, and I warned them, you need to get some food so you don't have to be out in the public. You need to do this. My friends are literally, stockpiling food now because, it's been very real. That's all I'm going to say, So that was the specific dream that I had that you said strategically has, would be a surprise. And I have, like I said, I have, I follow, I'm a amateur historian. I love history. I love politics, but I don't follow military strategy. I don't, anything like that. I wouldn't know about anything coming from anywhere, and or anything of that nature. So
Well, it's amazing that you had a vision that this stuff come from Venezuela of all things, because that, as I said earlier on that end, that is very likely way that it would go down. That's in fact, if I put myself in the shoes of somebody wanting to do this, that's the way I'd be thinking. That's how you figure things out. Put yourself in their shoe, and that's exactly the way I'd be thinking. Um, so that spoke a lot of truth to me. That spoke probability. It spoke that this could happen. It spoke legitimacy to the vision that you had, that you saw it the way you saw it. And really, you could take out the whole country with that second device you saw, the second missile going over Kansas, Nebraska area. That's actually the optimum place to take out the whole country from. Maybe they took the eastern seaboard for redundancy. The magnetic field of Earth has a lot to do with how the EMP is focused and comes back down. So it is
okay,
more effective when you do it in a northern hemisphere. Farther north you go, the more effective the EMP is. If you're like,
okay,
say, in Hawaii, you can still have an EMP effect, as they discovered the Starfish Prime experiment, where they launched nuclear devices on Redstone rockets, which were developed at the center where I work, by the way. They discovered the EMP effects then, and they were very much surprised by what that did in Hawaii. But it gets more intensified as you go farther north, and we're far enough north that it can be very much catastrophic.
wow,
The other thing, as far as the West Coast, the magnetic sphere aspect, that's interesting. Um, the crustal rock of Earth is granite. Granite has got a lot of piezoelectric crystals in it. Before an earthquake, well, there's so much tension on, they actually release what you call earthquake lights. It's the energy electrons that go up in the atmosphere.
sure,
And a piezoelectric crystal, if you put pressure on it, it releases voltage. If you put voltage on it, it gives you movement. So it
mm,
might be that enough voltage applied to all these piezoelectric crystals could possibly, this is speculation, I don't know.
oh,
It
sure,
takes a
sure,
lot of power. It takes an enormous power to make these kind of things happen. But if you have events that are just right on the cusp, just
sure,
about to
sure,
happen, like Cascadia subduction zone in Madrid, uh, the San Andreas Fault,
San Andreas, sure, sure,
if they're just right there and just need just a little to make them go, it might
right,
could do it. It might could
it
do it.
might happen,
I don't know, but
yeah,
I
yeah,
won't discount that you had that vision and saw that as interesting.
yeah.
Now it could be also they would have something else going to maybe try to provoke that additionally to that.
Sure, sure,
I have
sure,
no idea.
yeah,
I have no idea, but that's an interesting vision you had. Very, very, very interesting.
yeah, yeah,
Again, just putting the one over Kansas, Nebraska would take care of the whole country. They really would want to make sure they got the eastern seaboard, though, because
right,
that's the
right,
most populous area. New York's the financial capital of the Western world. And
right,
of course, we have Washington, D.C. as our governmental military capital.
right, right,
So
yeah,
this is a way to take America down. This is a way to, um, the Congressional EMP Task Force says 9 out of 10 people would be dead within a year after an event like this. You couldn't
right,
replace the transformers. It would take 10 years to replace all that stuff. That's if the grid and all the systems that are up and running that you would use to replace it, which they won't be. I don't know how we put this Humpty Dumpty back together again, to be quite honest.
well, in the things that I've sought in the Lord and asked, he was always speaking to me, and he would always say, you're going to get sent back to the dark ages, just think the dark ages, and so that is what we've been preparing for, is literally going back in time and living historically. Even a lot of people that are preparing for certain events, they're thinking about refrigeration, and they're doing solar, and they're doing this and that. My husband and I are taking things further. We're looking for and we're going to be installing an old-fashioned ice box in our home. I have cured animals and slaughtered animals for years. Going to be doing things as they did back in the day, slaughtering animals as you need them, versus slaughtering 100 chickens and then having to can them and having to have that necessity of covers. And so we're preparing to do things as they did back pre-1800s, and really be self-sufficient. And, you know, even this house, which is interesting, Greg, I believe it was God's plan to bring us here because we have an off-grid water system. You know, it was here. It's a traditional Amish setup, and we are going to be adding a windmill to it. It's basically our water is a pressurized water pump. Okay, so we have a big tank that gets pressured up by a windmill and or Honda air compressor, and that goes to a pump, and the pump just works on pressure and just pushes the water up and brings it into the house. And we have pressure for the livestock, for showers and things like that. And when we moved in here, of course, everybody said, "Oh, you got to switch that over to electricity." And I adamantly fought, you know, we're not moving that. My husband even at that time was like, "Why don't you want to?" Like, you know, until we started seeing all these visions and these dreams, and it made a lot of sense why we were brought to this location. And
you are to be a key person in reestablishing humanity. Come back out of the dust and grime of whatever this lays down. So that's kind of what that says. And I do believe that we can change the course of the future with repentance. You know, Jonah
absolutely,
prophesied to the Nineveh, and if Nineveh had not repented, they would have been destroyed, and they did.
right,
Jonah tried to run from his prophecy job, and you know the fish brought him back, the well or
right,
whatever. And so,
yeah,
yeah, in one of your dreams, you told me you were chastised for not acting fast enough and talking to enough people, which you thought you were doing. So now you've got
right.
a chance here, to, at least with this channel now, to reach out farther. Will you?
Yeah, and I greatly appreciate for it. I greatly appreciate it because I have a YouTube channel, and sometimes I share little tidbits of this stuff as I do it. You know, I've shared my personal testimony. I made a video about that. You know, I do things. But I knew that when I made my YouTube channel, that I really needed to focus on teaching people how to be self-sufficient, like 100% self-sufficient, saving their own seeds, raising laying birds and meat birds without grain, teaching
Yeah.
people how to do it without grain.
And
You know,
that's what I talk about. I talk about how to grow your gardens without
right?
fertilizer, how to make them grow
Yes,
for worm castings. And I talk about the importance of seeds. I did an entire video called "The Seeds of Survival."
right,
People need to
right,
look at that kind of stuff. And I want everybody here to look at Stacy's channel, Sustainable Stewards, and subscribe to it because she's got a lot of good stuff on there. She's a great lady. She's smart. She's tough as nails, and I admire her for what she does. So she's going to be an excellent person to move forward and keep us going. And I tell us all that we got to prepare for the worst and hope for the best, or hope for the best.
that's it.
You know,
That's it.
we can always hope this stuff don't happen. Stacy did
Right,
not say this is absolutely going to happen to us, and I'm not saying that,
right,
but it very well could. It's probable. You know,
right,
the way she saw it happening is a way that it would go down. Should it go down? International tensions are ratcheting up. I do a lot of videos talking about international tensions. We have tensions with China, with Russia, with Iran, with North Korea. And we don't know what's happening in North Korea. These leaders, if they're worried about their base, they're worried about their sustainability, they'd want to take us out. Who in the world stands up against China when it comes to Taiwan and Hong Kong?
right,
It's just us. Nobody else would stand up to it. If we were off the scene, it's planet China. China
right.
owns this
And I
planet.
got a question for you, Greg. I got a question for you. And this has been rolling around in the back of my head for some time, because you know, the more I learn about the EMP, you know, and it's within 3 months a lot of people die, 6 months more, and within a year, not like you said, 90%. What are the chances that people do this? They let us kill each other off, we starve off, right? And then they invade, and then the boots are on the ground.
That's exactly one of the things I've talked about and was going to get to mention here. You know, if people think they're just going to attack us right off, no, they wouldn't. And even if the powers that be on our side want to eliminate us, you know, they might pull some tactic like this. Because you know all they got to do is step back and wait for the year until most people have you know shot each other, starved to death, and then this country, what's ever left here, is really weak, and they might come in parading as liberators, at least to some
Sure,
people. Now, I'm sure they
sure.
would take out hard pockets that they know would be resistant. They would take out hard military assets, anything that might be left in that category. But it'd be
Right,
far easier for them to attack then. In the meantime, in that year, our Navy's steaming around and wondering who to shoot missiles at, you know, from under the seas, and they won't know because they don't know where it came from. He might just
Right.
lash out at everybody, but really, would he? Um, there's so much on it. And hey, you know what? China. So what if we nuke the heck out of China? They built all these cities upwind, all these big vacant ghost cities from the
Yeah.
cities they live in right now. They might just move back and go to these other cities, and then we
Right.
attack all the cities they're living in now, and they're going, hey,
Right.
okay, we're back here now. I don't know,
Yeah.
Stacy.
Yeah.
It's really frightening when you think about the things that can happen. But I tell people, don't be scared. Be prepared.
Right. It's not about sowing fear. It
Yeah.
really is not. And at the end of the day, I would tell people the number one most important thing that you need to get prepared is your soul, and make sure you're right with God, because we can stockpile as much food as we can and have as much water and do all this, but if we die and we're lost in eternity, it's worth nothing. So make sure you're right with God. That's the most important thing. Make sure your heart is right.
They can take your life, but they can't take your soul. And
That's
the most
right.
important thing. George Washington had a vision when he was at Valley Forge that this nation would grow and go all the way to coast to coast and be extremely powerful, huge, big cities. And then he saw it get attacked from all over the world, including from South
Wow.
America and including from Africa. Countries you wouldn't think. You wouldn't think, South America attacking us? Well, now we can see that there could be an attack launched in that area. It
Sure.
might be South Americans doing it, but it could be
Right.
launched there because you saw that. And that wasn't George Washington's vision. He saw us getting kicked hard, but he saw us standing up and prevailing by the aid of angels.
Wow. And that's what it'll take. Yeah.
That's what he
That's
saw.
what
So,
it'll take.
my friends, in the end, we win.
Amen.
But we have to last it out. We have to survive. Have
Yeah.
faith. In the end, we win. But you have
That's
to have
right.
faith. It's got to start with faith. You have to have resolve, and you got to prepare. Oh, by the way, you can go to preparewithgreg.com, which you can get long-term food storage. That's one way to start. And you
That's
do
right.
need to grow your garden. I mentioned seeds. I got a video on seeds talking about the Trail of Tears, how the Indians, how much they cherished and knew the value of their seeds. Well, you need
Yes.
heirloom seeds. You can get them from True Leaf Market. You got links below to my channel for that. I'll have a link below to Stacy's channel, Sustainable Stewards, and you really subscribe to her channel. Do it. Absolutely do it. Subscribe to her channel. She needs a big boost. She's really doing her best to try to help people. That's what she's all about. And I've had
Right.
friends or people comment on my videos and go, Greg, you're just taking advantage of fear to promote your videos and make money. If I want to make money, look, I got rabbits. I got cats.
Right. Right.
You watch these YouTube channels where somebody shows a cat eating a watermelon and gets 9 million views. I mean, that's where you make money. I got rabbits. I could do that instead of this. I mean, holy smokes.
Right. Right.
I mean, I got rabbits. I got cats. The cat videos are just off the charts. They go crazy. We got millions of views for cat just going meow, meow, meow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the one, there's one that got me waking a rabbit up to the sound of a banana.
They put the food around the banana when when he's sleeping. I've seen those. They crack me up. But the guy he's making thousands of dollars off of waking up Bunny. It's crazy to me. Oh Lord.
Stacy, we're doing the wrong thing. We should just be doing bananas and rabbits and
Right.
cats. Well, I'm sure you've got, but I've got both. I can do videos on that. But, we care.
Yeah.
We're trying to change the world. We're knuckleheads. Because we're trying to change the world. We're trying to save the world. Saving the world is like trying to save a suicidal drunk.
True. We can only do so much. And and I'll add this. Neither Greg and I are perfect people. I put out a video yesterday, Greg, and I was fired up because I'd been seeing some stuff for a couple weeks now, and I was fired up. And I had so much blowback for people that have been following me for the past year, telling me that I was not a Christian and I was not a believer because I told people to take their heads out of their butts, and wake up, and that's the thing. I'm not a patty cake Christian. I'm not, I walk in all aspects of emotion and I'm real. You're real, Greg.
Well, what I like about you is you're tough as nails. And I said that earlier, and that's because you got to be tough with what's coming. You got to be tough.
Amen.
And I've started a little movement to develop tribes, and I'm trying to collect information so people can come together in various locations and they can relate to each other and know who might be available, who might help out. And you're kind of already starting your own tribe by default on your own. If you want to participate in that, let me know, and I'll
Yeah, I
send all the
definitely, I
information to you.
definitely will.
I can see
Yeah.
you've already pretty much established yourself as having the property and everything else for a tribe, and being pretty much ahead of a tribe. And I greatly.
Well, you know, and one of the things that the Lord spoke to me was that I have built-in security here. You know, you get the people that will tell you, you know, if you have a greenhouse, if you have all this stuff, oh, they're going to come and take it. Greg, they're not going to come take it because they don't know what to do with it.
Bingo.
They don't know what to do with it.
Exactly.
I have a CSA, and I've been trying to get workshare members for many years. In 8 years, Greg, I haven't had one person that could do the job. Not one. So the idea that, you know, you have to be this gray man and you have to blend in and look like you don't have, it's nonsense. The way I look at it is I have a farmstead here, right? I have a greenhouse. I can supply up to 35 to 50 families and my neighbors all around me. I've just created a security grid.
How much land does it take for you to feed 30 families?
Oh gosh, an acre.
An acre.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about. Stacy, I tell everybody that in our lawns, we have 42 million acres, no, 42, million acres, 42 to 47 in lawns, just growing grass in North America.
Yeah.
Grass is the biggest waste in the world. Least you could do is plant clover for the bees, and you can eat clover, and dandelions, which, you know, all the Monsanto commercials is kill the dandelion. Oh no, kill the grass and save the dandelion, my friends.
Right.
Really and truly, you should be planting gardens in those lawns. They ought to be gardens everywhere.
Yeah.
And if you can't garden, let clover and dandelions grow. Never grass, not grass. Don't go grass. That's obscene.
Yeah.
You know, listen, you could feed from American lawns alone 2 billion people.
That's right. That's right.
People from American lawns. And forget the farms. But you know what? When the grid goes down, the farmers aren't going to be able to run those big $1 million tractors.
Nope. They're going to go under.
It's going to set vacant, fallow, and they're going to be losing everything. They would be very happy if people would come along with seeds and manpower and say, hey, can we share crop your property? They're going, yeah, please do.
Right. Greg, even your small dairy farms that are running 45 to 50 cows won't be able to manage to, in this situation. You can't milk 45 to 50 cows without electricity. You cannot do it.
When I was a kid, there were still a lot of really small dairies around. They were single farmer dairies. They had small little dairy barns. You can still see a few of those buildings remaining.
10 to 15 cows, right?
Bingo, exactly.
Yep.
That was exactly what they had, and people made a living that way. And it can be done again. It will have to be done again if you want milk that way, or you have your own. I encourage everyone to grow their own food, to buy everything local, to quit buying from these big corporations, especially.
That's right.
And you know, that's the way you fight globalism. That's the way we take control. We take it back, because every time you vote to buy their stuff, you're voting for them. Every time you spend one of these, it's a vote.
Right.
And you're voting for a system that cannot survive and end. So it's best to support your neighbors, your friends, your fellow people in your area. If you support them, they will be there. They will be able to provide you.
That's right.
If it all goes down. The big guys, they won't be able to do it. So if you're voting for them, you're investing in a capacity that's going to crash. Support the ones who can sustain you and feed you, or learn how to feed yourself. That's what I'm telling you. You know, everybody has got different, you know, charms. So everybody won't be doing the same thing. Everybody won't be farming, but at least support those people that do, and be willing to share a crop of your lawn out to somebody that wants to grow it. If you've got a lawn and you don't want to grow on it, and if you are a guy who wants to grow, and you're wondering, are your neighbors going to come and eat you and everything you got? Go to your neighbors and say, hey, you know what? I got some seeds. Can I share a crop of your lawn? And I'll get a portion of the food. Or if you don't have time, if you really are smart and invest in a lot of seed, which would be the smart thing to do, and you can go to Tree Leaf Market and right now and do that, by the way. But if you've got seeds, going to be money. If you got enough seed, you could tell them, well, I will teach you how to do it, and you give them a fraction back, and you keep the ball. And then they get to eat, you get to eat, and they're not eating you and yours. That's the key thing. So you are.
That's right. We have to come back to a historical mindset. I mean, history proves that the agrarian lifestyle, the communal lifestyle, those were the people that survived. It wasn't the people that were off on their own. I mean, let's look at this country, for example. Look at how many pioneers died going out on their own out west. They figured out very fast that they had to do it in groups.
Yeah, most. The loner usually didn't make it. Even the groups had a tough time.
Yeah.
The Dutch, I had a Dutchman tell me once, he was a sailor, that they figured back in the old days when the Dutch were selling the Indies and everywhere, the true Indies, the East Indies, that they figured that the sailor only had a 50% chance of ever living to come home.
Wow.
And you look at the history of people going across the United States, the frontiers of our first colony, we kept sending people at it, Jamestown, because they just kept dying. Half the people died.
Yeah, right.
Death Valley wasn't called Death Valley because the flowers are pretty.
Right.
It's tough. It's tough. And a lot of people don't understand it. They don't appreciate how tough it is and how tough you're going to have to get to be. And you're not going to make it alone. You know what?
It's work, Greg. It's work. You know what? I work from sun up to sundown. I also milk 175 cows at a dairy farm on top of what I do. I work from sun up to sundown, and then when you're planting, when you're then the canning, then the curing, then the preserving comes, and you're talking 8 hours of food production to secure that food. That
is farm life. So I did videos of my dad. My dad just died back in March. God rest his soul. He died in March. He was just a few days shy of being 99, and I did videos with him, and they're on my channel if you go below. And I talked to him. I tried, because I knew what he would tell me, because I knew what it took. But I wanted the young people today to understand the fortitude you're going to have. Those people scratched and fought hard just to have food to eat. No niceties, no amenities. They didn't have anything, but maybe if they were lucky, they got a new pair of shoes in the fall or winter. And they might have had 2 changes of clothes, something to wear to church and something to wear on the farm. That was it. And they were lucky if they had that. And they didn't have closets in some of those old houses. They did. Tiny. They might have had a cheffero or something later when they got better off. You might have a skillet, and going to town to go shopping was, if you were lucky, you could buy fabric. Usually, a lot of the clothing was made from fertilizer sacks that were called UANR sacks. I have blankets that were made from those that I use to this day, that my mom made when she was 16 years old back in 1948. So that's the blanket on my bed. In fact, you can probably see one back here in the corner. I've got one back there.
Yes, I can. And how great would it be, Greg, if we went back to that fabric and people could repurpose that? Now it's all plastics and and that type of thing, which are junk. But yeah, it is a hard life. It's a rewarding life, and
it is. Now, on the rewarding side, back in the day, you had extended families. You had neighbors that were like family. Where I grew up, the neighbors were all like family. If someone died, everybody in the neighborhood came to support the family. They brought food. The family didn't have to do anything. And if you had to, cows got out, everybody jumped in to help you put them up. If you had to build something, people came over. If you try to pay them, they acted insulted by it. And if you worked for them, they would try to pay you more money than was possible. It was crazy, but that was the ethic at the time. And people would work. That was the ethic. And
Greg, that's the silver lining in the MP. I'm going to tell you that, because people say how, there'll be mass death and this, yes. But I'm going to tell you what the silver lining is. The blessing amongst the horrors is that the family that has been destroyed by the modern industrialized system is going to be forced to come back together and unite. The family will be rebuilt under these adverse situations, and God will be glorified in it. He will be glorified. We'll have multi-generations under one roof, as it should be. We could have the elders with their wisdom, and we got built-in childcare for when we're in the fields, and that really is the silver lining in any atrocity.
Kids today are ungrounded. They come home and there's no parents there. Usually just got one parent. That parent's out working. So there's nobody there. They go out and they're looking for acceptance. They're not finding it, so they join gangs. They're feeling lost and dejected. They turn to drugs. The gangs are all about that. They're the only people that will accept some of these poor, lost, wayward kids. And so it becomes a vicious cycle. And and then they go out and do things, crazy stuff that we wouldn't have done in our days. You know, you might be mad at mom and dad, and that might give you the out to do something crazy. But when I was a kid, it wasn't what's mom and dad gonna think, but it's what's that grandma or aunt or uncle that I love so much. What are they gonna think?
Yeah, you had a reverent fear for your elders.
Yeah,
You
but
had a
also,
reverence.
yeah, and you had respect. You didn't want to disappoint or upset some people that you really
Yeah,
loved. I mean, you're talking to aunt or uncle that you knew you would just disappoint and break their hearts if
yeah,
you did something stupid. And so you wasn't going to do that stupid thing. But also, when I was a kid, we carried guns to school, and we had them in the gun rack in the back of our truck. Nobody
right,
was going to walk into school and just walk around shooting people. You wouldn't want to get very far.
right. Exactly, because everybody had them. Yeah, and see,
It didn't
I
happen. It didn't
didn't happen.
happen at all in those days.
Yeah, yeah. It just was never in the minds of
No, it
young.
wasn't in the mind. You wouldn't think of it. I mean, if we wanted to get in a fight with somebody, it was this.
Yeah,
It wasn't this. You know, all the kids these days, they want to pull stuff out and
right,
crazy stuff. No, we didn't do that. We didn't even think about it. I mean, you
right.
might have had a gun, but you wasn't going to go pull it on somebody. That's what you pulled on somebody.
Right.
I
Yeah,
mean,
guns were for hunting. I know I often took my rifle to school. You know, I'm a big deer hunter, big hunter altogether since I've been 11 years old. I mean, even before that, out in the woods, and we took our rifles to school all the time. You know, and that was I graduated in '96, so we're not far off. You know, and it's just how fast times have changed. You know, I'm blessed though because I homeschooled my daughters, so you
that's
know they've been you know, some people want to call it sheltered. It's not sheltering my kids, but it is protecting them against things that I don't want them to experience. And they're tough kids for it. You know, my little Ruby at the age of 4 was cutting necks on chickens, and you know, it's an everyday occurrence to her. You know, there's no, it's just a job that needs to be done. You know, and
I was wringing chickens' necks when I was a little kid too. You
yeah,
get them by the head and swing them and pop and off the body.
that's right. And my 20-year-old, growing up this way, she decided she wanted to go into the nursing care. So she worked 2 years from 18, 19, and now she's pregnant. She's going to have a baby. So she's not doing it right now with what's going on. She shouldn't be in there, but she took care of the elderly and she plans to go back. And, you know, this lifestyle teaches compassion. It teaches mercy. It teaches all those things that you need to have to be a productive adult, you know. So yeah, you know, if people don't just plant a couple tomato plants or get a couple bunnies to raise, you know, because you don't have to believe what we're saying about the EMP or the visions. If you just do it to teach your kids a life lesson and make them a better adult, it would be all worth it.
All right. So what's the downside, you know, for people prepping? I mean, in doing what we're talking about. I'm talking about also forming survival communities. I mean, what do you get out of it? One, you get good, clean food, good, healthy,
Yes,
wholesome food. You know what you're eating. Two, you get exercise. You get sun. Your immune system
healthy.
is stronger.
Yeah,
You form communities. You have friendships, big family. Psychologically, you're in a better shape. Your kids are
right.
in better shape. I mean, if all these things we talk about that we worry about don't happen, which I hope they don't, and they may very
That's,
well not, but if
that's
you're
right.
prepared for it and you do all these things, you get so many upside benefits, it's not funny. People just hadn't
Right.
thought about that. There is huge upsides to forming these communities. If
That's
you're the
right.
lone wolf prepper and you're just stocking stuff up, you're just sitting there worried, somebody gonna come get my stuff. And like I said on Rex's show, you might be the best in the West at popping balloons at the county fair, if you know what I mean, and getting a great big stuffed bear.
Right.
But that doesn't mean that you can hold off successive bands of motorcycle gangs coming at you.
That's right. That's right.
You know, how long before you're just too sick to see where your finger or other things are pointing?
Well, that's the thing. A simple cut. You know, you get a cut on the back of your shoulder. Good luck stitching that up on your own. Good luck.
Broken
You know.
leg, you fall and break the leg.
Yep. Yep. You know,
So
it's
this is why you need
community is the
teams and
key.
groups, communities, people that got your back. And I told
That's right.
a story on Rex's show last night about, and also on the video. In fact, I just posted Rex's show on my channel just a little bit ago as a prelude to this show because I talked about you in that show. and apologetically sorry, but I did get my crosses wired and said sustainable harvesters, which I think is something like sustainable stewards, which is really strange because my my grandmother was born a steward, so I should have known that. I should have blown that out. So, yeah, sustainable stewards is Stacy's channel.
Yeah.
So my bad, but you know, like you said, we're not perfect in many ways. I'm a human being. I might be a worm farmer, rocket scientist, with a worm farmer probably being the better side of that. But
I told my friends I was going to be on your channel, and they're like, "Well, what does he do?" And I said, "Well, he's a rocket guy. He's kind of a scientist, but he has a worm farm." They're like, "What?" I said, "Hey, it's the best of both worlds."
People can't wrap their head around that.
Right.
We can talk rockets if you want to talk rockets. We can talk electronics if you want to talk electronics. I can talk to you about the heart of a computer, about the arithmetic logic unit. We can talk about electronic latches and transistors and junctions, and we can talk about I can talk about different rockets and different things. And I got a rocket in my backyard, by the way. They're remnants of the DCX rocket, which I helped politically get through the system because I used to be a very active space activist. And
a space activist. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know there was such a thing.
It's people that promote space development.
Got it. Okay.
And I was also a space entrepreneur. I started, a nonprofit project and spun a company off. I was what they call New Space before there was a word for that. I was a prepper before there was a word for that.
Sure.
We called it survivalism originally. And when I was a kid, I was all into Yule Gibbons, who taught how to eat, from the wild. And I was really studying how to eat from the wild when I was a kid. And I would talk to people that knew about various plants and things like that. I've always been highly fascinated by both worlds, the world of living in the wilderness. I
the world of science.
I built a Hawkins muzzleloader rifle when I was like 16.
Wow. That's great.
And
that's great. Whichever tribe gets you in their community, they like won the lottery.
Hey, you too, girl. You too. You're awesome. So
yeah, we have to bring on some mechanically inclined folks. That's we've got plans. We've got some people in the works that will be here. We know for sure.
Interlocking broad spectrum.
That's right.
To build the community.
That's right. But everybody that comes here, they've been told, I believe very adamantly that if you're an able-bodied person, if you don't work, you don't eat. I've had people, Christians in church, say, well, if something happens, I'm just going to show up in my house. I said, you better not. You'll be met with a double barrel. Like, you better not. Not that I will turn people away. But you're not going to come here and take food out of my children's mouth without bringing something, and without bringing something. So, don't be that person.
There you go. Well, I had a friend ask me, or tell me, he said, Greg, if it's going down, I'm coming to your place. I said, are you willing to join my army? He goes, yes. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and we've told people, we've got a group of people that we trust. And the thing of it is you have to look at it too. Like I've got a grandfather. He just turned 86. Okay. I've got a mom and dad. My dad's got heart disease. My husband's got a mom and dad. We have to take care of our elders, so.
That's also the case with everybody that comes along. Everybody's got family, and the family's got family.
Everybody has family. And that's the question.
Whole city to your farm. I mean, you might support 30 people on an acre, but bringing the whole city to your farm would be tough. You don't have enough seeds to grow to feed everybody. There's only so much food supplies you can get. So everybody should have been prepping some time back. I started telling people early in January, I said, if you're not prepped already, you're too late. You missed it.
Yeah.
I said, if you're not, you better run. I actually said that. And look what happened right after I said that. Huh?
Greg, it's true. Because I'm going to tell you, there's a lot of people out there that think they can just plop a seed in the ground and, they're going to have fruit. They're going to have vegetables. You know what? It took me 6 years to learn disease, to learn blights, to learn water irrigation, to learn all these different things. It has taken me 10 years to inoculate my tomatoes, Greg. I have You want to talk about food security and disease resistant crops? Get heirloom seeds and start inoculating and exposing them to blights, exposing them to disease, and hand selecting the ones that thrive through the disease. That next year, they're not going to catch that disease. I've been doing that for years, and amazing. Or how to get big yields off of just tomatoes by stressing the tomato plant. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
If you stress it and take water away until it starts to wilt just a little bit, then you water it, the plant goes into a self-preservation mode and says, oh my gosh, I'm dying. And it'll send forth whatever mechanism is in it by the creator to send blossoms. And you start watering it, and a week later, you got 3 times the amount of blossoms on your plants than you would have if you would have just kept watering them.
Yeah, that's good. Do you know our bodies work the same way? That the people who are studying longevity are finding the exact same principles within our own bodies. So
Right.
those people that lay up on the couches and sofa all day and play games, what are they stressing? Nothing. They're
Nothing. Yeah.
and they don't know how to work. They
Yeah.
just the idea of work. I've hired kids and watched them compete to see who could, slough off the most. When I was a kid, we would compete to see who could work the hardest, and the one that worked the hardest took pride, and we'd make fun of the guys who couldn't pull their weight as much, And today it's the opposite. It's like, really? What planet am I on? Gosh, guys, come on.
Exactly. Yeah, there's lots to learn, and I suggest people who haven't started doing this. YouTube's a great resource, but you also need to find a neighbor, find somebody in your community. You know what? I'm a CSA farmer, okay? Go to a CSA farm and devote one season. Do a work share, folks. Any CSA farm, they're looking for work shares.
Oh, yeah.
Go there.
Absolutely.
Work your 4 or your 8 hours a week and learn from those farmers. Learn while you can, because eventually
apprenticeship and internship. And
that's right.
A lot of companies, interns work for free just so they can learn the trade.
Yep.
That's your pathway to liberty.
That's right. That's right.
It's not a job. It's you're developing your stuff. It's like you're going to school, you're going to college, and you can do it without taking a great loan or paying the person tuition. Yeah, he's getting something a little bit out of it. You're getting a lot out of it.
That's right. That's right.
And I've had people argue, oh yeah, well we did put a stink in the ground. We did grow something. Well, they got lucky the first year off. The next year when the bugs discover what they got, it ain't gonna be there.
Right.
I have learned successive years. Things change. The deer come in and they go, oh, they're growing lettuce here. Oh, here are peas.
Right.
Here's sweet. I grew some fantastic sweet potatoes for a few years, so the deer discovered them. But the deer's always been around here. So I had to learn how to deal with deer, and that's been a challenge. And I tried several different things. I finally figured out how to do that. Everybody goes, put up a fence. Well, if you knew the constraints on a property, you'd understand why that is going to require a ginormous fence. I can't just fix my garden.
Right.
I have to fence in my entire property, which I will do one day, but I just hadn't been ready to do that yet. But I found other cheaper alternatives, like taking, basically fencing and putting a cage over the beds themselves.
Yeah. Do you want to know my trick, Greg?
What's your trick?
My great grandma taught me this.
You and Harris?
You take an AM/FM radio, put it in a pail, set it sideways so it doesn't get rained on, and you put it on talk radio. And the deer stay away because they think people are out in the garden.
There you go.
No, if the EMP goes, if that EMP happens, you're not going to be able to use a radio unless you've got batteries. But we don't have deer because of that. And I also got livestock guardian dogs. I'll tell you what. So
what would the deer do if you put it on a rap station?
Their minds might explode. I don't know. Yeah.
You're thinking maybe Mars Attacks where they play the music. Yeah.
I haven't had to use the radio in a couple years because we've got the Great Pyrenees. They keep all those, the deer, the coons. They keep everything away. So,
now, if they keep the moles away from my worms, I would love that.
Oh, yeah. Moles, you're probably out of luck there. But I do have my female Great Pyrenees. She does chase mice and eat them. So who knows?
Well, maybe I need some Dachshunds. That's probably what I need.
Yeah. You got cats? I would think a few cats probably would do the trick.
they're not really mole hunters. They go after some rats, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's what we need to do. We, you know, just for money purposes, do cat channels and cats and rabbits.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
a rabbit waking up to the sound of a banana.
My
9
biggest
million views.
my biggest video I ever had was just filming my cows, my horse, and my goats eat. And then I put the calorie intake that each one of them needed for the days for their daily value. And it was just them chewing. And people went crazy for it. Of course, I wanted to use the opportunity to teach people. So I, put that information in there. But yeah, that was my biggest
mistake.
video.
You'd have a 1 million person channel if you hadn't have done that.
Right. Yeah.
So,
But
anyway, we can do a lot more videos because, I have started something of a quarantine living section of videos. I don't know if we're going to be under the quarantine, but there may be self-quarantine and it may come back around. Who knows? I think it's still a valid, and I might change the name of it. It's basically, how do you live when you got to live where you're at? That's what it boils down to. And how do you make a living without all the things you had before? The first thing I could have said was worm farming, but hey, I actually thought, well, not everybody has land, so the first thing I did was courier service, because I thought, well, there's people living to make a living. And guess what? The people doing courier service are doing quite well. So I was prophetic on that. And people could still do that if you're living in an apartment or a condo and have a big.
That is a great idea.
So
I cleaned people's homes for many years. I'd go in and you make $50-$60 to work 2 hours. There's things you can do, especially now with what's going on. If you are responsible and not overexposing yourself to people. There's a lot of elderly out there that need help that can't do the things that they're supposed to do, and they're willing to pay.
Well, there's a lot of people, and you could do a shopping service for people. Elderly people do not need to be out and about with the stuff that is.
No.
And I'll be honest, this stuff is still out there, and it's going to be out there for some time. I think that there's going to be some permanent changes to those people that can be most affected by this. There needs to be changes in how they live until this thing finally burns out, as we hope it might.
Well, the Spanish flu lasted 2 full years, so if that's any, prerequisite, so to speak.
And the Spanish flu was also purely natural. We've got to really wonder what's out there now.
That's the question, Greg. I've been looking at, because like here in Wisconsin, and I've been talking about this on my channel. We know people that have had it. My sister, she didn't have the test, but Greg, she knows that she had it. She even got the pink eye. The pink eye that runs with it. But like she said, it was 4 weeks. She was absolutely miserable. And she got to the point where she said, I have to get up. I have to work my lungs. I have to force myself to get up. She took the kids to a lake and they went for a little walk. And when she started walking, she started hacking up and, just hacking. And, her daughter got it.
I've heard people say that the best way to treat it is to fight it. Get up and do things.
You have to fight it.
Don't lay back and fight it. Also, the people that get affected, and most of the people that are vitamin D deficient, I hear, that's things I've heard. I'm not a medical doctor, so I'm not giving medical advice because we'll get shut down by the powers that be if we try to.
I would say that's in general with any even the common cold, right? You're more susceptible to that if you don't have vitamin D. That's a common, that's common knowledge, so to speak. And here in Wisconsin, we don't have a lot of sun,
I look like a white boy right now. I'm very fair complected. Some people wonder, I do spend a lot of time in the sun. I don't tan very well. I turn just a little bit shade more rusty and dark. I'm basically a Viking by ancestry. So,
right. I'm the same way. I always have my head covered because I'm very fair skinned.
Exactly. Now, you should have seen me when I lived in Alaska. I look like a sheet of paper, my friend. I look like, if you think I'm white now, I look at pictures of me up there. I was that white in Alaska. After no time at all. Just like a month. I was washed out.
Right.
I was kind of amused when I come back south. You know, I said, man, the black people down here sure are a lot darker. I got used to the lighter shades of people in Alaska, and it
Yeah,
cut
closer to the
across all
sun.
races. Now
Yeah.
that's not a negative comment at all.
No, it's just a fact. Yeah, the sun tans your skin, gets you darker, you know?
So
Yeah.
anybody thinks I've got some negativity in that comment, let it be known. My youngest daughter is mixed race, so I'm definitely
Yeah.
no qualms in that area, and I have
Yeah.
no use for racist. So
That's right. That's right.
somebody is clocking in that direction, and just get out of my way. I got no use for you. So
Right.
wake up. Everybody's a human inside.
Right.
Everybody
That's right.
has the capacity to love, to hate, to do good and evil. Everybody.
That's right.
Everybody has feelings. Everyone nods her head for yes and shakes her head for no. They
That's right.
smile, they
That's right.
grin, they cry.
And we all bleed red. We all bleed red.
That's right. And mama is a word in every culture and every race
Yeah.
around the world.
Yeah.
Mama. We all came from the same root. Where you bleed.
I absolutely love the different races, Greg. I'm actually amazed. I just think the colors of the rainbow and the different physical attributes, and it's beautiful, and each one is
beautiful.
It's just it actually amazes me. DNA amazes me. It's something that I study often, and I would never do the DNA tests or whatever for me. I know where I come from. I don't need to do that. I don't want to be tracked or anything.
Well, I had a first cousin who got the DNA test, and so his DNA my mama's DNA would be his DNA too, at least, because his dad was my mama's brother. And we were astonished. It all came back 100% from Nordic countries. It's like, wow.
Yeah. My aunt actually did a genealogy, a pretty intense genealogy of our one side, and down to the towns and all the way back to 1500s she was able to get. And we come from the Germanic, around the Baltic Sea, right around there. And my grandfather has some Swedish in him, and so we're a cross between Germanic tribes and the Nordic tribes.
Yeah, we're probably about the same mix. I can see
probably. Yep.
Cool, but that doesn't mean that we have to not appreciate other people, and I do.
Oh, right.
And I'm to my ex-wife's family, I'm still family. I mean, and they revere me, and I think highly of all of them. They're good people, and I think the world of them.
Yeah.
So I've got a strong emotional bond with them. They're great people, and I really love them to death.
Yeah.
In fact, I probably want to have my sister-in-law, my ex-wife's sister, on my channel soon. She works in the hospitals in Huntsville. They're all from Kenya, by the way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna have her on my channel because she wants to talk about what the medical workers are facing.
That would be great. There's so many videos coming out about what's happening, what's not happening, and
it's all counterpoint, counterpoint, and it's we're the fog of war, if you will. There's a lot of emotion out there, and it's a rough situation, and people are having to deal with a lot of stuff, and then the powers that be seem to be bent on taking our liberty. But then again, we also have to have responsibility ourselves for how we comport ourselves, and try not to spread things to people that can't handle it. And then there's those people that believe there's no such thing as a virus. Now you are a gardener. I am a gardener.
That's right. And plants get viruses and disease.
They're only exomes, and they only exist because of electrification in the world. Excuse me, I can show you plant viruses way out in the field away from they've been around for thousands of years. Plants that are affected with these viruses. They're not infective. Well, go tell the dead Indians who took the smallpox blanket in 17.
Right. There are bugs, there are insects that actually can bite crops that will pass disease to them. It's the study of that is actually fairly new.
They're known as vectors.
Yep. It's there's a lot in, you know, a lot of science when it comes to growing food. And the fact that anybody believed there's no viruses, there's, you know, you might as well say there's no bacteria or no germs then at that point. And, you know, you had made the comment in the video that the channel that you were on, you know, about going back to the Middle Ages. You know, I had made a comment in my video about, you know, the bloodletting, and I really feel like I don't believe in evolution, so to speak, but I believe in adaptation and things like that. But I almost feel like humanity is de-evolving, if that was such a thing, in common sense in recent years. You know, just, you know, even with this CV-19 thing, like I said, I don't believe it's nothing. I believe it's definitely something, and we all should be responsible. The question is the right path, and how far our government and what they can and should not impose. That's the question that, you know.
Yeah, it's going to be a big discussion space. You know, I think, you know, we need to be careful. At the same time, we do have constitutional rights, and those constitutional rights, now, some people really don't understand them and what they are, but we do have constitutional, and they are the freedom of assembly, freedom of religion, press, speech, religion. They all go together. And the one right that ensures that we can maintain the other right is the right to arm bears, right?
That's right. That's what I just said. Number 2 protects 1, 3, 4. I've had to use number 2 on a couple occasions now to protect my family, and the thought of not being able to do that, that's actually scary, Greg. That is something that I think the American people, if you wanted to fear something, or you should fear that, because every culture that has been taken over, that has been destroyed, they first took the weapons. Even back in the Middle Ages.
It's called democracy. Yeah. There's a word for it. More people in the 20th century got off by democracy than all of the wars combined. I mean, look at Hitler. You know, we know that he did the Jewish people into a number of 6 million, but he also did a lot of other people in. But he was beauty compared to other guys. Stalin took 60 million. Mao Zedong took 80 million.
Yeah.
Look at Pol Pot in Cambodia. He took somewhere like a third, maybe half of his people. Killed them. That means just
and Stalin, one of the main things he used was the food, starvation. He took all the food. They got so bad that they started cannibalizing each other. It was that bad. You know, and I have talked about on my channel many times.
I've been to the door of Stalin's apartment in the Sovietsky Hotel.
Really?
Yeah, I've been to the door. I didn't go in, but I've been to the door of the place, and they maintain it. And you know, it's interesting. But he was definitely a killer, a cold-blooded psychopath. And the kind of people that rise to power in tyrannies. And when you have a form of governance that does not recognize just human nature and try to convert it to the will of others, then you're going to wind up with a tyranny. Now, a lot of people are of the opinion that, oh my gosh, socialism would be so much fairer and communism would be so much fairer, and we can sit on our couches all day and play our computers, and they will pay us to sit there and do nothing. Show me where that happens at. Show me where people are breaking down the doors to get in those countries.
Yeah, right.
It's running the other way. And why is it running the other way? Why are people still trying to get out of North Korea? Why are people still trying? What's going on in Venezuela? And by the way, I would submit China is not a communist country. They are in name. I would submit they're a fascist Nazi nation. Look at the style of economics. Go compare what they are, what they do, and the different forms of governance and economic systems. And then you tell me what they are. You tell me. If you don't believe that, go look it up yourself, study it, and then you tell me what they really are.
I stand on the ground that they're just evil, period.
It's not the people. Country, we're not talking about the people. We're talking about
no, not the people, the country, the government. Clarify. A government that will take a woman in the back of a van, force her in there and rip and tear her baby out of her womb unwillingly. A government, have you heard of the chairs, the chairs that they put the children in? See, now, if I follow and I'm connected to some ministries, okay? And
Okay.
I'm just going to keep this short because it's so disgusting that it'll turn your stomach. Orphans, when they get to a certain age and they can't adopt them, they'll actually put them in chairs and they'll wrap them down to the chairs, and they basically let the other kids. I can't even. It's so vile. You can't even. They starve them to death. They're called sitting chairs, and they basically rot to death in these chairs. And that is actually one of my concerns, Greg, is China. You know, I'm just going to say it, the government is godless. You know, they want the people to worship the state, and that's why they remove the Christian crosses, and they don't let other, you know, it's a godless. I don't fear, say, Russia as much, because I at least know that the Russians have some faith. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
and the faith is really coming out stronger. They've rebuilt a lot of the churches in Russia. I mean, they
Right.
popped up everywhere. As soon as the communist wall fell in Russia,
Right.
non-communist, the churches went up like crazy.
They
Boom!
spread. Yeah. Yeah.
I've been in them. They're beautiful. And,
Yeah.
you know, the people in Moscow are just like you and me. And
Right.
I felt at home there, to be honest. I really did. And I had no problem with the people there. They're beautiful, smart people. And the people in China deserve better than what they're having to live under. If their system is so great, why is Hong Kong just all singing happily Kumbaya songs ready to go into the system? They're not.
Right.
They're protesting,
Right.
you know, to try to stay out of it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Taiwan. Why are they all bristled up to keep China out? Same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think as far as I'm concerned, I think that's our biggest enemy.
Yes.
Is China.
Oh,
It's
hands down.
yeah.
Russia was never really the threat to us that China is going to be. Russia never had the capacity to take us over. I've talked a little bit in my previous video about what's going on between China and India back a few days ago. People can check that out. But I talked about Thucydides' trap, because back the very first historian was Thucydides, and he wrote about the Peloponnesian Wars, and he wrote about the situation where and he went into great detail about it, where a existing power feels threatened by a rising power, and there's a lot of tension there. The existing power wants to keep the rising power from overtaking them and supplanting them, because they don't want what they got. And the rising power wants the ability to rise, and they don't want to be kept down.
Right.
So either one can, you know, either way things can go bad. And in the last 500 years, out of 16 cases, all but 4 led to war. And those 4 were the case with Portugal and Spain, where the Pope adjudicated that. And both countries were very much under the influence of the Pope. He basically divided the world in half, said, you guys take it from here and you guys take it from here.
Yeah.
That sounds pretty fair. You split the baby, the whole world, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, Solomon's deal with the whole planet between Spain and Portugal, and Spain got the better hand of that deal, I guess. But it kept a war from taking place. And since then, it's been principally like the United States and Great Britain during World War I, World War II, as we were beginning to rise, but we were saving Great Britain's rear end. The United Kingdom, that's what it's we bailed them out, and they, you know, World War I and World War II, and so they were happy for us to be there. And then again, they were highly invested in us anyway, so that wasn't a situation that led to war. The United States and Russia is considered one of them, although we did have hot pockets, all the Cold War activities. There were people who got shot at the borders. There was the Vietnam War. There was the Korean War. That was all the hot pockets of that conflict. But we didn't come to direct blows. But then again, Russia never really had the capacity to rise up and replace the United States, because they didn't have the production capacity. Russia was a third world country with a big military.
But you know what? The sick thing about the whole thing is, Greg, is we built China.
Yes. China now has the production capacity. We've won every war we won by attrition, by outproducing the enemy. Now we made China the biggest producer on earth. How do you do that? How do you win when you got to go to somebody and borrow money from them to buy a bullet from them to shoot back at them?
Right. It's, yeah. And, you know, I follow a lot of the, I'm in a couple different women in agriculture groups, and a lot of people are not, I mean, some people are aware about the agricultural land that China is buying up in the US. They're buying up a lot of it. And one in particular, in California, have you ever seen the commercials for the A2 milk?
No,
Okay, so there's A1 and there's A2. Basically, back in the 90s when they really started pushing the cattle and the cows, through breeding, they actually mutated one of the proteins in the genes. All right, so the original gene was A2, and it switched to A1, and that's why we have a lot of these milk allergies now, because the protein mutated. Okay.
Well, that's part of the wheat allergies. We've changed
that's exactly
wheat. Wheat's not what it used to be.
Because it's modified. Everything's modified, and it's a different protein in the human. It's not palatable for the human body. So the Chinese patented, all right, the A2 genetic code. Now, never mind that this genetic code is creation itself. I mean, God created the DNA, but they patent it, all right? So now we have thousands of farmers in the United States that are advertising A2 milk. China came in, built a huge farm in Colorado, a huge dairy farm where they're pushing their A2 commercials and selling, you know, to the United States. At any moment now, the fear is that the Chinese government is going to bring down the hammer, and they're going to bring lawsuits against all the American farmers that are advertising on A2 milk, because they own that name. They own that name.
Yeah, we got to stop that. How do you patent Mother Nature? That's not supposed to be permitted. And another thing, you know, they own what, Smithfield Farms and a lot of these meat processing plants, and you know, how do we allow ourselves to get here? It should never happen.
Right, and that's why I said, Greg, it's a hard situation, but I'm not going to shed a tear over them closing, and I'll tell you why. Because this is the greatest opportunity we've had to shift this and flip the switch to local.
Bingo.
That's right.
Vote with that right there.
Right.
Vote local. Stay local. Support your
local
farmer. Don't go with the big corporations, the multinational corporations. I mean, for everything you buy, really shift how you buy. Part of the objective of these communities is to establish our own economies, to trade as much as we can amongst ourselves. Now, you know, we're still going to, you know, probably be using support of internet and internet devices, but I hope we keep that as American as we can.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going on. China follows Sun Tzu philosophy, and they're also right now not only building artificial islands, fortresses in the South China Sea, which they've seized illegally, essentially. Very aggressive what they've done with that, and against the UN. But then again, they use their UN because they know we'll follow the UN. So they use the UN against us. They don't follow it because the UN actually, the court ruled against them in the suit that Philippines put on, and they just ignored it and kept doing what they were doing. And who's going to stop them? See, they understand that. But they are buying alliances with nations in Africa, which they're starting to wake up to what they've been hoodwinked into, and Pacific Island nations, which are smaller countries. They go in and buy an alliance and tell them we're going to put in a port and an airfield. And what happens is they only use their own people to build it. They still retain ownership of it. The country winds up in debt to China. And winds up having to give them rights to all the natural resources. And the Chinese have what's really 4 military bases been set up all over the world, bases they can use for the military. And bigger than that, they're getting the vote of that country in the UN. So suddenly they're creeping into a position where they can control the UN. There are all these alliances. They're setting up these little countries by paying some little chieftain or, you know, a small country's head a bunch of money, putting it in their pockets. So they're buying influence, and they're buying it fast. And the United States and other countries that are at risk to this, like Australia in particular, need to wake up and hurry. Yeah, Australia has good trading, and Australia economy is dependent on China for trade. Get a deal with the devil, and you're going to be in serious trouble in a hurry.
You know, the greatest thing President Trump could do right now is make a Oval Office declaration that we are going to put 100% effort in to building our manufacturing plants. making our own shoes, making our own clothing. You know what? I don't mind paying $5 extra for a shirt if I know my fellow American is making it. I really don't. I think he would go down in history as one of the greatest presidents if he did that. But unfortunately, and I don't like to get into politics, but unfortunately, he's making more international deals. Did you see the meme that he put out that he was going to help American farmers? About the food, that the government was going to be buying food from the farmers.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
It's not happening. He's actually importing. They're importing from China. They're importing from Africa right now. We got farmers, we got ranchers out west that are losing their butts.
So here we are, the world's largest bread basket, and we're importing food from poor, starving nations.
Yes.
Wow.
And this is why, Greg, I upset some people yesterday, because I'm about, look at the man's fruit. Look at a person's fruit. It's not about what comes out of their mouth. It's about their actions. And right now in the agricultural realm, actions are not lining up to rhetoric at all.
So tell me what happened with Julian Assange. If you want to know where a man's heart lies, what's going on with Julian Assange? Go look at it.
Isn't that horrible? That he was Trump's greatest propaganda piece during the election.
Julian Assange got Trump elected by the cover on Hillary, and what happens? Yep. Throws him under the bus.
Threw him under the bus.
And the man has been drugged, and he's not even hardly a human being right now because
his mother is like begging our government, is begging governments of the world to help him because he's dying. I mean,
he is. He should be a global hero.
We
should build a statue to him. We should carve a mountain in his honor.
Right. And those are the things, that, and I'm the first to say I voted for Trump, and I'm honestly going to tell you, Greg, that my conscience has been seared that I'm not going to partake in any more elections, because I'm at the point now where my vote says, number one, we all know they say what they say and they get in and they do the complete opposite. And I can no longer sign my name to that. I don't want to be a part of that system. And I'll be honest with you, I think it's all rigged now. We don't have a two-party system anymore. It's a hard situation. I prayerfully came to this. It was with a lot of prayer that I had to say, I'm opting out of the system, because I don't want to give them, I don't want to comply. If I check, then I comply.
This is the most important vote you have, how you spend
it.
Now, in terms of politics, I don't want this to be a political channel. I did get on though and ask about that Assange thing in the video, and I got really thoroughly beat up for that. But come on, guys, tell me what's going on there. And I heard all these excuses. Well, he'll take care of everything. The man's dying, for Pete's sake. He's dying. He's not been taken care of. He's dying. And that's an atrocity. When somebody does the heroic heavy lifting that he did, exposing what was really going on in the world, he just left to die, that's kind of hard to respect.
He's the epitome of representation of the free press and freedom of speech, and he's being left to die. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing. I don't know. I'm just at this place now as a believer in Jesus Christ where I look at that system, that governmental system, and it's so corrupt. I just can't be a part of it anymore. And that's why
Jesus said, "Trust no man."
Trust no man.
Trust no man.
Trust no man. That's right. That's where I'm at. I'm trusting in Jesus Christ, and I'm going to opt out of that system as much as I can. As much as I can.
People have accused both of us of not being Christian.
Yes. I was accused of not being a Christian because I spoke against Trump. Well, you know what? I voted for the man. But when a man does not follow through with his promises and do what he says, guess what? I'm willing to call that man out and hold him accountable. And the problem I see is many people aren't willing to hold people accountable these days.
Well, maybe he'll come around, but maybe he got in there and got compromised by the deep state, or maybe
Yeah.
he's just so immersed in it, that's all he hears. Everybody comes and talks to him, is talking to him from that. And maybe it's a hypnotic thing. Maybe he got pulled into it. I
You
don't know
know,
what's happened. I don't know what his
yeah.
heart is. I do not know, and I'm not going to
Oh,
speak
no,
for him.
neither do I.
What his
Neither.
heart is, I don't know
Right.
what his mind is. I don't know where he's going with this. All I know is I've seen what happened to Julian at Assange, and that was horrific.
Right. Right.
I
Right.
think that needs to be fixed. I think Snowden needs to be allowed to come home and live in peace too.
Yep. Yep.
So,
And I, and what happened to Flynn was outrageous. And I think that Trump could have been very much more outspoken about that from the beginning. And now it's.
Flynn got in trouble because he had a little memo with some notes that he scripted down. Just happened to probably had in his pocket and put on his desk at home.
Right.
And that's what he got railroaded. That's the way I understand it.
Yeah.
He didn't have a server full of classified email in his
Right.
closet like somebody
Right.
else did. He got
Right.
totally away with it, scot-free.
Yeah.
Talking
Yeah.
about somebody else. All
Yeah.
right, so yeah, there's plenty to go around. There's plenty of guilt out there. But hey, I'm not perfect. You said neither of us are perfect, and that's absolutely
None of us are. But
none
I
of
pray
us
for that man every day, Greg. I pray for
are.
that man every day.
And I hope I'm wrong, and let's hope that our prophecies are just a message to tell us to take care of ourselves and be prepared, and maybe
Yes.
the come to its good senses, and all these things won't come to pass.
That's
I
right.
believe that we can do that. I've been railing to get the power grid hardened, so that we would be resilient against an attack like that. I've been doing that for years. I ran 2
Yeah.
conferences to that effect, and I lost a lot of money doing that. And
Well,
and
there
so
wasn't there a book. Wasn't there a book the second after the prelude or the preface to that book? Didn't he work for the government and he was warning the government and they kind of poo-pooed him about that too? It's called 1 Second After. It's a book about an EMP that hits. If you haven't heard the audiobook or read the book, people, you really need to, because I thought it was a very well done book.
I'm gonna tell you, he was an optimist.
Yeah, right.
As bad as it looks, it's actually going to be worse.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I don't doubt that.
It's something a lot of people don't account for, and I actually mentioned this in one of my videos. I've actually went to Google Earth and started looking in farms and looking at them from above to see who actually had gardens. I started driving around doing videos of where gardens were and farms. The farmers today, most of them aren't growing gardens anymore. They're really not growing their own food. They're just growing whatever they sell to the market.
Right.
And that really shocked me. When I was a kid, every farmer had a big garden, not a garden, a big garden. You might see a little one every now and then, but you just don't see it like you used to. Now I think people are learning, they're coming back because now they're starting to wake up. I know the garden centers are getting a lot of business now, and people really, my worm sales went ballistic, but I've had to shut it down because I hadn't raised my prices in 6 years, and postage was killing me, and I hadn't had time to take care of a lot of basic essential business, and I just had to shut down for a while. I'll be back, but I got some emergency things I have to do, but I still have to maintain my channel, and I feel called to get the message out because I'm feeling, I have a mission to tell people how to survive, and I'm trying not to be faith-centric because I'm trying to reach out to people everywhere to tell them how to prepare and survive. So I'm not, and that's one reason some people have chatted me. But I also have fun with alliteration and ancestral things, and they don't seem to understand that. But if I was different, then I wouldn't have you on here talking about Jesus Christ and what you saw and saying that I see the validity in these messages. That should tell people something. But I'm trying not to. My channel is not a religious channel. This is a prepsteader channel. Now I could start a religious channel and maybe go into these kind of topics. That might be worthwhile. But you don't want to alienate your viewership when you're trying to, in one area, to get people to know that they need to take care of themselves. Maybe once they do, they keep going around. But
I do the same thing. I mean, I live out my faith. I don't hide my faith, but I'm not pushing my faith on people either. And when I come with these visions and these dreams tonight, from my standpoint, God speaks through the conscience of all men and women. He's the spirit that hovers over the earth. I mean, from Genesis 1, he speaks to all man. He wishes that not one perish. I don't care if you're pagan. I don't care if you are an agnostic. if you are don't believe in a creator or God, God cares for you all the same. I care for you all the same. I don't put one above the other. And that's like with my channel, that's what I try to do. I have specific beliefs that are to my own that I mention here and there, but it's not about pushing doctrine or religion or whatever. It's just people prepare, get your life, get your spiritual life, get your physical life in order, get your house in order.
Amen.
And that's about it.
Amen. And I do teach and tell people that you've got to be right in here. You got to have your spirit in the right place, or you're going to be in a world of hurt. And I also tell people that morality is important, and morality does begin with simple things like your word is your bond.
That's
you
right.
Give your word to somebody, you got to back it up. It shouldn't be something cheap, because if you don't live up to your word, nobody's going to take your word. Nobody's going to believe you. And when it becomes a matter of survival, you're going to be in a problem. Oh, and I do have one other thing I want to bring up, and it talks back to the original topic of communities, tribes, and that is this: what the ancients did when somebody did something heinous, a great crime in a tribe, they kicked them out.
Right.
They just kicked them out. And in the Greek community, they would write their names on shards of pottery and they'd put them in jars. And if you were of the bad sort, they were drawing these names out, and those shards were called osters. And if your name were picked and you were sent out, you were ostracized.
Ostracized. Yeah.
That was a sentence of death.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was a death sentence. and the American Indians would do that. The Greeks did it. Tribal societies throughout history have ostracized people, kicked them out of the tribe. And literally that was deemed to be a death sentence. I mean, some few would survive, but they would be a lonely, bitter sort. The only exception were the shaman, but the shaman would come back after a bit of time, and they had a lot of training for how to survive out until they did come back. And they were people that might have been pagan or animist, but they did have some kind of faith.
Right.
So,
Well, and that's the thing, Greg. At the end of the day, the rule of law will still continue. It'll still be the foundation. I have verbally rebuked some people because you get those people, I'm going to come and take what's yours, and we're going to do this. But guess what, folks? If this happens, we're going back to ropes and trees. Right? If you think you're going to come rape our women and children, you're going to get a rope around your neck.
Oh, yeah.
There still will be a rule of law. And as a matter of fact, the law will be enforced even more so than it is now.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's my warning to you people out there, because like in my community, the neighbors that I have talked to, you won't get out if you threaten a woman or child, or if you're not going to walk away. We won't leave you to go harm somebody else. So that's my warning.
Known as a service to society.
Yeah. Yeah. And you Greg, you know as well as I do, women get the worst part of the brunt of history. Women and girls. Women historically have been sold more so than any race, any culture, into slavery, the sex trade. Women have been a commodity.
Going on right now. But women are the nurturers. Women are the wombs of life. But we don't. When I was a kid, I was taught to revere women, and they were like on a pedestal in my mind. But women have not lived up to that because they forget they're the nurturers today. And
right.
A lot of kids, not all of them, not most of them, but there's a lot that do.
Yeah.
And that nurturative role is society can't survive without it. That's critical. And some people look down on that role. Are you kidding me? That's starting people out into the pathway of life. That is one of the most critical functions in our society. That's what keeps society glued together. How do you have a cohesive society when kids don't have that nurturing start in their life? And that continues. And hey, I look up to my mom and my all my grandparents are gone now. My dad's gone, but I still look up to I got a couple of aunts that are still alive, and only a couple, but I've got a few, and I really look up to them, and they still fill a nurturative role in the lives
Sure.
of those around. And it don't just mean their own kids. They do that for their nieces
Yep.
and nephews
Yes.
because it's
Yep.
a family thing. And that's very important. And you get an emotional support from that. Uh, so it's a vital thing. Women should be revered and respected and
Right.
protected. And anybody that doesn't protect the women, and when a guy wants to hit a woman, he's a piece of schmuck. What is this?
Right.
You prove your manliness by picking on somebody smaller, weaker.
Right.
You're a
Right.
schmuck. You're a
Right.
schmuck.
Right.
You deserve to have whatever you do to them done to you 7 times over.
Right. Right. And I suggest you folks out there listening, you teach your young men, but specifically you need to teach your daughters how to shoot, how to protect themselves. You have to, because Greg, we as parents, we can't be there 24/7. My daughter, my Ruby, and I, we train in jujitsu along with firearms training and stuff like that, because you can't rely on a gun alone. You just can't do that. So we train in jujitsu, but I really highly suggest you train all your kids, boys, yes, but in particular your girls, because my daughter is not here, but my 11-year-old, when she was 8 years old, had dreams. Greg, she had no idea what this was, but she had dreams about sex trafficking of young girls. She had no idea what it was. We don't watch TV in this house, Greg.
So
She does not.
your daughter's empathic. She's an empath. She was picking up the energy and the misery that these girls
Right.
were feeling. And I'm sure God had an assistant in showing her that. And so she picked up on that. And it's the tragedy that she picked up on it, but at least now she knows that where she needs to stay away from, that
Well,
evil
yeah,
exists,
and
so much she'll need to defend themselves. You mentioned in
right,
one of your videos that you figured out what these people were going for. It wasn't what you own, it's you. And I
yeah,
believe that, but what they don't understand and appreciate just how tough as nails you
they
are.
haven't been around, Greg. I chased them
Good,
down. I
good,
chased him down. My daughter was gone because she was at my oldest, and
good.
he pulls up at 3:30 in the afternoon, and he's sitting in front of the house. And I was going to go out and confront him. I was going to confront him. I had my 9mm on my side just in case.
If I
And
were
he
in your
took off.
neighborhood, I'd be backing you to the hilt. I'm going to tell you that.
Yeah.
I would be chasing them myself.
Yeah, he took off. I ran in the house, got my keys, got in my truck, and it took me 5 miles to catch up to him. He was driving so fast. He turned the corner. I got that close on his backside, got his license plate, everything. And then I followed him, and I kept coming up and coming back. And then I backed off and I turned around. And we haven't seen hide nor hair of these vehicles since. So we're 45 minutes from any sheriff, from any police officer out here. By the time, and we found out that these people had some sort of tracking device for the police, because when they got a mile above, they kept taking off. And the police said that criminals have tracking devices. It's called you can get an app on your phone to follow the police and where they are. So, I had to take appropriate manners into my own hands to let them know I knew that they were stalking us, because they always showed up when my husband wasn't here.
That's another reason the Second Amendment is important. All these people, well, if you have a problem, call the cops. Well, I've called cops and it takes them forever to get anywhere. I know that.
Right.
So,
right.
I've taken advantage of that because I wanted to be I thought my house was broken in on. I thought I knew who was there, and I thought I was going to catch them red-handed. So I waited till I was about 10 minutes away from my house, and I called the cops, and I barreled in, ready to confront the people I thought would be there. And they weren't. So I was wanting to deal with it first. And I was, I let them come as a backup to mop up after, I dealt with it. I've been around, Stacy.
Yeah. If you've been around, things happen.
And I know how to deal with things. So I'm no wuss, if you will. And I don't look for trouble. But don't bring it to me.
And that's exactly it. That's my dad used to always say, Stacy, you better not ever start a fight because I'll kick your backside in. But if somebody starts one with you, you better damn well finish it, he used to say. So that's how I was brought up. You stand your ground. protect what's yours.
I'm a very nonviolent person. I talk loud, and some people misconstrue that for thinking that I'm mean or violent. That's just my voice. That's the way I am. That's the way I'm wired. I'm just wired loud. It gets me in trouble in Cubeville, where I'm
Right.
working my day job, but it's nothing of that sort. And I do talk with I have a cadence to the way I talk and just the tone of my voice. And I might be from the South, but I don't talk like this. This isn't just the way I talk. I got a different, probably because I was in the Army and I was up in Alaska and around a lot of other people, Northerners. So I got a different accent, than what I grew up with. And I'm not cutting that down. I'm just saying I'm different. And a lot of people have a hard time understanding that,
Yeah.
you know,
Well, I hear I have a Northern accent. I never knew that was such a thing until, but it is what it is.
well, hey, I can tell you a lot of stuff, but in the essence, we just have to know that we have to get prepared, and that's the
Yep.
bottom line of this. The bottom
That's
line
it.
of this video is bad things can happen. And
Right.
if you had a dream that detailed something out in very exquisite detail that is very improbable for you to have had.
Absolutely.
How you came to that vision, see what you saw is very interesting. And it tells me that, this is a message, this is a warning, and it tells us what we need to do to get ready. That we
Right.
actually do need to get ready, but let us prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And
That's it.
we can pray, we can meditate, and I believe in the power of prayer and meditation. And I've tried to lead a few prayer and meditation sessions to try to get enough people together to help shift us into a better pathway. And I still think it's possible. I know it's possible, and I know that repentance is part of that. But I'm trying to reach out to more people. I'm trying not to be faith specific in any manner.
Right. Right.
I tell people, so look, if you don't have any faith, that's fine. Just meditate. If you don't believe in meditation, just a moment of silence.
Right.
And so I'm not specific in that at all, just because I'm trying to reach out to more people. And I think that's what we can do on YouTube. For those now, I think the religious channels are best run by the people who are called to preach.
Right.
And
Yep.
who knows, I might be one day. My oldest brother's a minister.
Yep. Yep.
But that's not where I'm at this moment. But I do feel called to lead people into knowing that they have to get ready. They have to prepare. That they have to.
Well, it's just about shining your light to the world. Just shine your light.
And
That's what it's about.
And after I've had those prayer sessions, I would tell people, shine your light. I actually use those words. And I would tell them, go out and do something good. Help somebody. Do something nice. Do something good. Make a positive difference. And if everybody started doing it, if we could spread this, we could change this world in a positive way. If we can get enough people in on this, just by the idea of getting people doing things that are positive. Because you know what? There's more of us than there are of those that would do other things. There are more of us than there are people that would put the thumb on us and hold us down. Yeah. If we wake up and realize that, then we're in control of our own destiny. I don't care what you think. We really are in control of our own destiny. If you surrender that, because you want that sweet taste and fly bait, guess what? You're going to discover one day that stuff is poison. And that is dependence. By being dependent, you are signing up to be in trouble. That's why I believe in independence. That's why I believe in self-sovereignty. That's why I believe in having our local communities, our local tribes. That's why I believe in buying local. Support your local farmer, your neighbor, your friend, your community, your state, your own country before you send the money out and about beyond that. And if you're wanting to talk it from the environmental standpoint, hey, you're not causing trucks to run all the way across the country. But it also means you get are fresher. They have better vitamin content because vitamins stay in time with a piece of fruit. And you can get better varieties of vegetables and fruit. You can grow your own or buy local because the stuff in the store is designed to have long shelf life. It's not only the sweetest, most nutritious fruit you can get. You get a big old hard carrot that's kind of like cardboard. You should taste the stuff that the local farmers grow. Yeah, it's gotta be a little bit more money, and it has to be because it costs money to grow this stuff. It's not cheap on a small scale to grow a lot of food. So it's going to cost a lot more money, but it's going to be far better tasting, and it's going to be far more nutritive, and you're supporting your local community. It's going to go away when the power is here no longer.
Well, Americans are nutrient deficient, Greg. I mean,
Yes.
the industrial model of food, it's dead food. It literally is dead food. And you want to talk about how to prepare for a pandemic? Start growing food. Get vitamin rich, get mineral rich in your body, and so you have a better fighting chance.
Right.
You
Use wood
know?
chips to compost. Trees pull from deep down and pull the minerals up. Use rock dust like azomite. You know, hey, we got a buddy named John Kohler. Well, I don't know him personally, but I traded with him. I bought stuff from him, and he's actually watched my channel and referred some people to me that are helping me out a lot right now. So John Kohler talks about azomite a lot, rock dust and minerals and
Yep.
nutritive value, and using seawater like what is this? I don't want to say C60, C90. I've actually got something here called C60. It's a little different.
Sure.
But I'm getting my wires crossed again. My cross is wired. So we can make a big difference. But you know, one of the things that I found I had a deficiency in was magnesium, and I was having problems
Sure.
with my heart running away with me, going
Oh, gotcha.
going to
Yep.
the races, and so I started eating tree nuts. You know,
Oh, yeah.
it went away, pretty much went
Yeah.
away. So because I was lacking,
Yeah.
so what farmers do is they fertilize their crops with NPK. That's it.
Yeah.
Gross top level macronutrients that'll make the plant grow. But the plant is not the nutritive plant that you need,
Right.
because they're
Right.
not finishing these minerals in the soil. They just keep putting the same junk.
There's no microorganisms in the soil. It's dead soil.
That's right.
See, and I focus on living soil. I use a hay mulch permanent raised bed system.
The
I
very
create
first
3 inches of
paragraph,
soil.
the
What's
first
that?
the first paragraph on any book on organic gardening should say, and start with the very first sentence. It should say,
Soil.
good soil is living
Yep.
soil.
Is living soil.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why I brew worm tea. That's why I have
Mm-hmm.
worm castings.
That's
And
right.
that's one way to bring that and worms is ways and means to bring your soil back to life.
Yes. Yep. Yep. And actually, you know, one of the reasons I started using the hay mulch systems, I remember my great grandmother gardening like that. She used to cover everything up.
Mhm.
And then Ruth Stout, you know, a couple Ruth Stout videos got on YouTube, and it you know, it started becoming, but that was the way that people did it for hundreds of years. They covered up their crops with, you know, they would take the scythe and cut the ditches and cut their grass, and they added it to their gardens. And we didn't have tillers back in the, you know, the early 1900s. There was no such things as tillers.
If you
People
see
added.
if you've watched my videos, I talk about my hand tiller in a few of them.
Yeah. See, I
Yeah.
don't till. I have a no-till system. And Greg, I produce enough food for 35 plus families off of a no-till.
No-till is the
permanent
best way to
raised
go.
system.
The only beds I'm tilling up with my hand tiller are the ones that had a lot of Johnson grass in them, because I got to get
Oh,
them
sure.
roots out.
You
I
got to
gotta
get that out of there.
And
Yeah.
I kind of turned my garden over to somebody else at one point, and they let
Mhm.
it go. And back when I was doing the
Silage,
Power Grid Defense Conference, I thought they would take care of
silage
it.
tarp, Greg. You need to
What?
get yourself some silage tarp.
Oh yeah, I'm using some tarp. I got some tarp. up here.
Yeah, cover it. Like when I establish my gardens, I don't cut. I just cut the grass, you know, like that with my lawnmower. I put a silage tarp over it for 2 months. I kill all the grass off. The worms come up. They do this. I take a little bit of my manure compost and I put that much on there. I plant directly in it and I cover with hay. And in 1 year's time, the hay makes 3 inches of soil every year.
Wow.
So by year 3, you've got a good 12 to 14 inch bed. You know what I mean? And year 3 is the sweet spot. When you get to year 3, after no till and no, you know, that's the sweet spot right there. Your high production.
So
high
for the
yield.
uninitiated, a no-till garden permits the formation of mycelium networks. And I've had it,
Yes.
especially when I use the worm tea to help inoculate it. Mycelium it's a dendritic network of fungal fibers, and it looks like brain cells. It looks like a neuron network.
And it goes for miles.
Yeah.
Miles.
And what a lot of people
amazing.
don't know, all plants put sugars out through the roots because they're trying to feed bacteria and the mycelium networks in the soil, because
That's right.
they will turn around and bring them back the nutrients they're looking for. Those bacteria will break down the nutrients to make them more readily available to the plant roots.
That's
But
right.
the mycelium will actually transport it to the plant in along with
Yes.
neural networks or dendritic networks in return for the sugars the plant feed it with. So they have a symbiotic relationship. You don't see a giant bird flying over a forest, spraying to make things grow. But look at a forest grow.
Right.
Why? Because it's all in the soil.
It's all about the soil. Mycelium actually eats plastic. There's new studies out on that it eats plastic and gets rid of plastic debris in the soil when it's been left. I mean, it's amazing. And mycelium, if for you folks that don't know it, it's the building block of mushrooms. That's
Yeah.
all it is.
So
Yeah.
what's the guy's name? Stamen, who is out promoting mushrooms and mycelium networks. And
Yeah, he is.
his name kind of sounds like, a plant part, Stamen. But
Yeah.
always,
Mushrooms are an amazing thing. I mean, I just that's one of those things. I grow mushrooms. There is literally 3 things I could not live without. If you were to ask me what are the 3 things that I would plant or grow or whatever that I couldn't live without, number 1, potatoes, because hey, the Irish weren't called potato eaters for no reason. The Irish were called potato eaters because during the last solar minimum, during the mini ice age, potatoes was what allowed them to survive. Number 2, onions, because onions are chock full of vitamin C. They can be put in any kind of meat, make them flavorful better. And number 3, mushrooms. So I grow lots because they're so full of vitamin D. I dehydrate tons of mushrooms. I could literally live off of those 3 things and be happy the rest of my life.
my garden is mostly medicinal market garden. I'm mostly right now growing turmeric and garlic, elephant garlic. Elephant garlic is a leek, but it has the Allison C and also the compounds that you find in onions and leeks. So it's got access to both worlds. And huge, ginormous, balls of cloves.
Oh, sure.
So the cloves are like yay big and about yay big around. The cloves are enormous.
Do you just grow like a good German or hardneck for garlic?
Yeah, it's called elephant garlic. It's not a true garlic.
Oh, the elephant, the big one. Yeah. Yeah, we can't grow that up here. That's a
grow it in the winter. That's my winter crop. I plant it in the fall and it grows to the winter.
Yeah.
Be ready to harvest around the 1st of June. So I'll plant something else there for a few months.
Yeah, it won't survive up here. We have to have a real good winter hardy hardneck to make it.
You can grow the hardneck stuff. You got the other stuff.
Yeah.
It's an interesting crop, and I grow turmeric. That won't grow up there either. And hey, I do like to eat okra, and okra is just a cousin of cotton. It has to have hot weather too. But
you can grow turmeric up here. You can grow, if you got like a hoop house, a low tunnel or high tunnel greenhouse, you can grow. I've started some ginseng this year. We grow lots of ginseng up here. You can ginger. You can grow ginger. There's things you can do, but you have to use season extension methods.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Well, that's interesting. So we could do several more videos talking about gardening, maybe what you do to store and preserve food. That would make some interesting topics. Letting you come on my channel and talk about what you do to preserve food. And hopefully, my channel's a little bigger than yours, so hopefully I can get some people to subscribe to your channel and help you.
Right.
You're doing good stuff there. I'm more broad spectrum. I cover a wider range of topics.
Yeah, you do. You definitely do.
And
it's a good thing.
Probably too broad because all the people that talk about how to grow a YouTube channel say you take one narrow topic and stick to it. And I got camps of viewers who they like this or they like that, but when I post the videos on the other side, they'll unsubscribe in droves. So it's kind of an unholy alliance I'm trying to hold together. But I look at it this way: if we're going to survive, we have to know the sum total of all these different aspects of knowledge. We got to know how to prep. We got to know how to eat wild edibles. We've got to know how to grow our own food. We need to know what's coming at us. I tell people keep their eyes open, head on a swivel. And I tell people that the objective of my channel is to enable them to to survive, thrive, and stay out of the hive.
Stay out of the hive. Yep.
Yes.
That's right.
Hive
That's
is
it.
trying to suck us in with that sweet fly bait. And so many people are going to, they go, boy, this is good.
Yep.
And this is part of it. This is, this is on the slippery slope of the hive right here.
Right. Right.
So we got to be careful. We have to really be careful. I've done a couple of videos on that alone. So, I really enjoy your channel. I enjoy your spirit. I enjoy what you're trying to reach out and do. I appreciate that you're tough as nails. That's a great thing. And I have a lot of respect for you, Stacy. I have a lot of respect for
Great.
the visions you've had, the fact that you're trying to share those and get them out. And, to the viewers, once again, we're not saying these are going to happen, but these
Right.
could well happen. Even if she hadn't had these visions, this is the way I was thinking. If somebody wanted to do this, that's probably how they go about doing it. And she comes and she has this vision that is just that. It's like, wow, holy smoke. So
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
got to open your eyes. It's got to make you think. It's got to make you ponder. And you should prepare. And again, the worst thing you've got for preparing, especially for forming the communities I've been talking about, you got new friends.
Exactly.
You got new family. You're eating better food.
And you're saving money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all upsides. And
Yeah.
you might do a little hard work, but gee, are you paying money to go to the gym and work out? Why not work out in your garden? Get some vitamin D and get some food as a benefit. I mean, gosh, guys, come on. And it gives you an edge for survival. You pay for insurance all day long, and don't question that. This is insurance. This is probably the best insurance you can invest in.
Exactly. And for you folks that are in the city, and I get people that I can teach you how to grow enough food for 2 people on a balcony.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've done videos of growing food and microgreens on racks in my living room.
Right.
I can't eat all that stuff. I can grow more food on a rack than I can eat. So I've seen guys growing in their closets.
Yes.
But
yes.
If the power goes out and you're in the city, there's that balcony. And
that's right.
Greg, we'll need a lot of seeds. Well, you plant plants in pots and grow your seed plants there.
Well, and all those places got roofs, don't they? They all got roofs.
Yeah, every apartment building's got a roof. Factories got roofs, old malls, and there's tons of places with roofs that are not utilized. And in fact, this habitat concept that I came up with has you growing on the roof. So I'm trying to get everything squeezed down to a 1/10 of an acre. The Gervais family in Pasadena, California grows 6,000 to 7,000 pounds of food on a 1/10 of an acre.
Yes, it's amazing, isn't it?
Yes.
It's more on less. That's the key.
And
it's more on less.
And they sell from it. They make a living off of it. They live bigger, but they're the happiest, most well-adjusted people you'd ever meet.
Yeah.
And going and being with the Gervais family is just so awe-inspiring. I mean, my hats are off to them. I have the utmost respect for that family.
Yeah.
And just their spirit, their how well adjusted they are spiritually and mentally is amazing.
Well, Greg, that part of it is being connected to creation, being connected to the earth. When you remove man from creation, from the very thing that supplies its nourishment, there's a chasm that grows, in your spirit. I can't explain it, but there's times I've been removed, like even in the winter months. We get removed from the land a bit because it's cold in the north,
Yeah, I lived in Alaska. I would have called you a Southerner when I lived up there.
Yeah. Come spring, we get our shoes off, we get grounded, we get connected, and our body our joints feel better. We have a joy. We wake up in the morning looking forward to what we're going to do for the day. There's always something to do. And I feel for folks that live in concrete jungles. I would be in such a depression. I don't know how they handle it.
They need to green. The cities need to be green. You can be growing stuff on the sides of buildings, within the buildings, on the top of the buildings. There's such a thing as a nature bath. You can go out in nature and it adjusts your mental state. and it puts you in a far better state. It's one way to deal with
Yeah.
stress. When I was a kid in high school, I had a lot of stress. And the way I dealt with it is I went out in the woods. I spent a lot of time in the woods when I was a kid.
Yep.
I'm comfortable and happy in the woods. And as we go out into space, we're not taking concrete jungles. We got to have a self-support life support system, closed loop ecological life support system. So what you got to have is habitats with greenery inside. You're going to have
Greenery.
trees, forests, plants as they grow big enough to accommodate them.
Yeah.
Those are the top concepts that I was pushing for when I was pushing space activism. And that's the typical thing you would find in the L5 Society, which is now the National Space Society, Space Frontier Foundation. Groups like that want to green the cosmos, even our society. I know, I was one of the key leaders. I was the chairman of the executive committee of the National Space Society at one time. I was the CEO of it. And which is the position that Bob Zubrin held at one time, and he started the Mars Society. I know Bob very well. And I've also participated in a lot of other space organizations, to include I'm an advocate in the Space Frontier Foundation, which is very much a libertarian type pro space, new space organization. So it's, I work for the government right now in that area, so that's kind of a dichotomy, but it's paying a salary for the moment. But also I'm doing my private stuff with my worm farm, and that's where my future goes.
Right. Wow.
That's my main commodity right now is worms. But I also have the makings of blacksmith shop, and I played around with that stuff when I was young, in addition to building muzzleloader and such. So but it's important to practice these things. I built buildings. I built greenhouses. I've got a 24-foot by 75-foot long aquaponics greenhouse. I've got a log barn I built when I was a kid. I built a cabin with a working rock fireplace. So these are things
all skills people need.
And the way you get them is to do it, not from watch the videos. You can read the books, and that gives you just kind of a way to start at it. But you got to do it.
You got to do it. Get your hands dirty. Yeah. I always say at the end of my videos, get out there, get them hands dirty, get growing, get raising, and get sustainable. And that's what it's about,
Exactly. And dirt's good for you. You know what? One of the sayings on my place is that mud is our friend. It's not always that. It's been raining so much with this grand solar minimum, with the cosmic ray cloud nucleation induced moisture that keeps falling all the time.
You guys have been getting hammered down there. We've actually been fairly decent up here. And I mentioned today in my video, my announcement that we were going to be on tonight is we haven't had any chemtrails, Greg.
I heard that.
We've had, and I have sky and weather charts for 12 years now, and I just jot this down, and we haven't for 3 months. I mean, it's really been since this whole thing has started. Had the chemtrailing, and I mean, the sky is just beautiful today. It's just absolutely gorgeous. We still have. Wisconsin is not known for heavy winds, and I know that's part of the solar minimum too, because we've had for the last 3-4 years 35 to 55 mile an hour winds, like just an average. I mean, Wisconsin is known for 5, 10, 15 miles an hour, not 50 miles an hour. So, and even today, I mean, we had a 20, 25 mile an hour wind. That's a pretty hefty wind for the average day. So right now, that's been adjustment for me, because I hate heavy winds. And one of the things you'll find when you grow crops is you'll get wind curl, and you get these different issues that you have, and you have to adapt your your crops to the excess wind. But it was such a blessing to see that blue sky today and just look up. Not a plane, not a jet, nothing.
We got overcast here right now. It's cloudy outside.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. How can you get the vitamin D, if it's cloudy all the time, so.
You get a little bit. There's some ultraviolet comes through, but not as much.
Right.
I mean, like I said, when I lived in Alaska, I looked like a sheet of paper. I was so acclimated to it. I grew up in Alabama. I was out in the fields in the summertime, literally 100 degrees, and I mean ambient temperature, not feels like.
Wow.
I would be throwing hay bales on a wagon or the back of a truck, or riding behind a hot tractor engine, cutting, raking, or baling hay, and I was adjusted to it. and I wasn't much darker than I am now, honestly. And I
Right.
wearing no
Right.
shirt, but I adjusted to it. But then when after 2 years in Alaska and I came home, I was actually driving through the town I was born in, which was, and I had my windows rolled down, just sitting in a truck, had a automatic transmission, I wasn't even having to shift, just power steering, just sitting there with the windows rolled down, driving, which has been a very easy task. I got heat exhaustion.
Yeah.
Or summer,
I
nearly.
Yeah, I don't know how you folks down south live. I really don't.
Well, I'm acclimated to it
We get 85 degrees a cup. We don't get a lot of 90-degree days up here, but 90, 95. If we get 2 or 3 days at the most, that's it. It affects me greatly. I am best, honestly, Greg, at 0.
Well, that Nordic blood, I have reacclimated, but it took, that first summer nearly killed me. It was rough. I mean, really hard.
I bet.
My ancestors must have made a mistake when they moved down there. I go, why have all the
Well, I was thinking,
selling the north and people that are from North Europe selling the south? Well, maybe we should just like swap Michigan for Alabama. That's
I'm
the kind of
wondering what
thoughts
happened there because, over here in Minnesota, we got a lot of Nordic folks, and that's a little more, from ancestry, more, climactic, as far as similar. It's surprising. I just wonder what your ancestors said. We're going to go to Louisiana. Maybe they went via the way of France, though. That could be.
A lot of my ancestors came over as Scott Irish, and they went into the Appalachian Mountains, and then they just split out and went north and south. I do have ancestors that came over though with, the British were Germanic tribes, and and often invaded by the Norsemen, from Normandy, France.
Sure.
And some of my ancestors actually came out of Normandy, France. One was a knight, and I think I can't even pronounce it, Pugili or something, but he became a Bedingfield and later Benefil. They were, my family was really connected with the crown there in England.
Wow.
But the ones that were my direct ancestors came over as officers serving Colonel Oglethorpe when he set the prison colony in Georgia.
Ah, okay.
3 brothers, and they became the Benefils in the United States. That's on my mom's dad's side. Her
Sure.
mom was a Stewart. So I had ancestors that went into Kentucky when Daniel Boone was going to Kentucky, and I had so I've got ancestors that went different places, but they all my branch came into the South, and we've been here for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
My grandmother, when she was kind of concerned about Indians and not too appreciative of them, and I said, well, Grandma, we took this land from them. She said, what do you mean? When our ancestors came here, what are you talking about? We've always been here. And she was born in 1902, but that's really what she thought. She had no concept that we came from somewhere else. I used to think it was strange when I was a kid, and I would watch on TV shows, all these shows of people in New York and other places talking about the old country. There was no terminology like that in the South. There was no old country. This was home.
That was home. That was home. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's
wow.
We didn't know such a thing. It was too far back in the past.
Right. Yeah, you've been here a long time when you think you've been here forever. I know my family that from the German side, they came over in the 1860s. My other family came over, of course, at the turn of the century. When the big migration from Poland and things like that came over. So
we had people in the Revolutionary War and from there out. We've had family in every conflict there's been. So now
it's definitely a great history.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
So definitely that. So it's interesting. But when your grandmother, who's born in 1902, thinks you've been here forever, that's over a century ago now.
You've probably almost been there forever.
And there might be an ancestor somewhere in that lineage that walked across the land bridge or something.
You never know.
But I know I definitely adapted to Alaska like a fish to water and nearly died coming home. So I know what genetically where I was set to be is the far north. So
Yeah.
here I am in the deep South, so go figure.
That's interesting. So you adapted to Alaska very quickly, but when you came back, I mean, it says a lot. See, that's the kind of stuff that interests me about the difference in races and cultures and things like that, you know. I know my aunt just moved she was in Georgia for a few years, and then they were in Tennessee, and she is now like 52, 53 years old. They came back to Wisconsin. She said, we genetically were just meant to be in the North. All those years they were working in the South. They just, you know, because they were born up here. They're like, we just can't handle it anymore. So they this year moved back up to Wisconsin, and they're so happy to be back. It's interesting to me how, you know, that just, when you're born into something geographically, it's just there, you know, it just is.
But it's odd when you're born into it and you come back to it and it kicks your rear end.
Yeah, I bet.
That I did not. I'd heard other people say it was hard to adjust to coming back from Alaska, but I think it was a lot harder on me than it was the most. I had no concept for it until I actually experienced it. And yeah, it was very, very bad. It was extremely hard. And even after I had adjusted here, I went with some friends in March, in the spring, to the Virgin Islands. And I think the UV was getting me there. I think I actually
Oh, wow.
I had a sunburn underneath my skin. There was something odd happened to me there.
Ouch.
And so it was just strange. And so I know that I'm not a tropical being. I'm a snowflake or something. I'm meant to be in the far north. You know, my ancestors probably chased mastodons with spears or something. I don't know. They're definitely some of them rowing some longboats at one point, I would believe.
Well, I know mine did. You know, when you live in the north and it gets to be like 25 or 30 below, and you walk outside and you're in the barn or whatever, and you're taking off your coat because you're sweating,
right.
You know you were meant to be in the north. You know, we get to that point where zero, we got a sweater and a turtleneck on. You know,
I've been, well, in Alaska, it was so dry. I actually walked outside zero in a t-shirt. Now, that was very deceptive when it's dry, because you could get frostburn without even frostbite without even feeling cold. Because when your nerves are desensitized, the blood is not going to the surface of your skin, so you're not getting the heat. But at the same time, the surface of your skin is not heating up, so it's in more danger of getting frostbite.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're outside, and suddenly you feel pain, like fire. You know you're in trouble. You better do something fast. You're about to get frostbite.
It happens fast. You know, with this solar minimum we have, and it was a couple years ago. You know, we had 2 weeks where it was about 40 below, and we have to do chores no matter what. You know, I'm outside for literally 2 minutes and my eyes froze shut. My eyes froze shut, Greg, because what you get is the condensation, the little droplets on your eyelashes, and they froze shut together. I couldn't open them.
I had one of these parkas with the Eskimo rough that you look through a tunnel when you're walking around. You're breathing in and out of that, and it had fox fur around it so that it wouldn't freeze. Your more condensate out of your breath wouldn't freeze on it. And while you're outside, you feel it when you breathe the air, and you feel it prickling going up in your nose because it's freezing. And you have to carry a handkerchief in your pocket. Because as soon as you walked in the building, all that water that's frozen in your nose is going to instantaneously melt and come gushing out. But I never had a nasal problem. I never had a stuffed nose. I never had a cold or a sniffle or a sore throat the whole time I was up there. I thought I was going to be sick because you get sick in the winters in the South, but no problem at all up there. It was wonderful.
Yeah, and that's kind of a myth. People think you get sick from the cold. You don't get sick from the cold. You get sick from viruses and
they don't. What are you talking about? They don't exist. There's no such thing as viruses. Come on, girl, what are you talking about?
You get sick from other people, not from environment.
People were in short. I lived 100 miles from the nearest red light. People were in a bit of a short supply there.
Yeah.
It was interesting. It was like living on Mars. Everything had to be brought in by shuttle, basically, and you had to wear your EVA suit to go outside. But talking about having to do things when it's cold out there, oh yeah, you absolutely had to. As long as you had to do anything, it's always cold.
It's always cold. You just got to do it.
You know, I'd be outside plenty and be 60 below, 40 below, It got
Yeah.
to night on main base where I was at a gas. The ambient temperature reached 79 below zero, and out one of his
Woo!
pictures, it was 80 below zero. Now I was there in one of
Yeah.
the coldest winters. That was, I think, the winter of '81. Um, but
That's
81, 82, 81, 82. Then there was 82, 83 that winter. It got really cold up there. So it was, in fact, my unit was called the Cold Regions Test Center. It wasn't called that because it was tropical.
yeah, that is killing temperature there. That's cold.
Beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful country, beautiful country. I think Alaska's the prettiest state in the United States of America.
I have not been there yet. It is definitely something we would love to do. But anything we do, of course, we do prayerfully, because
Oh, well,
if that happens, if the EMP happens, we ain't getting home from Alaska.
that's true.
You
That's
know.
true. You want to make yourself at home there. And,
Yep.
you know, it's like living in a Christmas card 9 months out of the year, but, you know, Santa ought to know, ho, ho, ho.
Yeah, that's right.
Santa Claus moonlights as a foreign farmer. Mr. Rocket Scientist. All right, well, we've had a lot of fun. We've gone really long. We've got off topic here a good bit, but hopefully the listeners can enjoy some of our banning around. We did stay on topic for the first bit of the video. I know
Right, we did.
the views will look like this, and then go meow toward the end. But for those that stay on, it is a sign that you watched this to this link. Tell me that don't drink the worm tea. How about saying it? Do not drink. Or say, Greg, I do not drink worm tea, because you do not want to drink worm tea. I tell people, it'll either make you grow or make you go. And I don't know where to make you go. It might make you go to the head, or it might make you go to the morgue. I have no idea, but don't try it. Now, I did know a guy who was really tall. He said he drunk some. It was in a refrigerator somewhere where he was at. He thought it was a drink, and he drank it. And he was really tall. I said, well, I know what it did to you. It made you grow. But don't
Yeah.
mention that.
Don't doubt it.
I do
Probably
sell
just
worm
tastes like
tea.
dirt.
I do sell worm tea, and I recycle bottles, so it's often sold in Gatorade bottles. And I had an Indian guy come up to me, Stacy. He said, "Is it healthy for you? Is it nutritious?" I said, "No, you do not drink it." "But is it nutritious?" I said, "No, do not drink it." "But is it good for you?" I said, "Do not drink this." And he just kept on. I was like, "Oh my gosh,
It's
do
nutritious
not
for
drink
your
this. It
fruits.
might kill you."
Oh, I've told the farm that I work at that we should actually box and can the manure and sell it to the folks out in Hollywood. We could make some good money for facials. You come home. You could sell anything if you market it the right way. Sorry, we talk about that stuff because we come home, manure head to toe.
They're dairy patties.
Dairy patties, yes. That's right.
Dairy patties.
Yep, that's right.
From happy cows. I bet your cows are out in a pasture on a green, not in the stinking feedlots that like they got in California.
My cows are outside. They go in the barn at night right now because my mama's got I got little babies and I got little calves, and I have the dogs to protect them. But right now, I'm protecting them from the human type of predators. Just there's numerous cases of farms having animals stole. So
that's
if somebody,
a bigger problem. That is going to be a bigger problem as we go into it hits the fan. It's going to get to be a bigger problem. In fact, people might just start shooting animals for food, because there's some people, a lot of preppers think, oh, all I need is a few cans of beans and a gun, a bunch of bullets and beans, and I go out in my big rifle, I'm going to shoot deer, and I'll live that way. Well, they forget that our ancestors almost wiped the deer out hundreds of years ago when the population was much smaller than it is now, with muzzleloaders. So the fact of the matter is, the game is not going to last but a couple months, and it's going to be gone.
Here in Wisconsin, my great-grandfather in the 1930s during the Depression, 6 months until the deer were cleaned out. 6 months. That was it. They were cleaned out. It took till the 1990s, Greg, for the population of the deer to come back up.
Same way here. Exactly. Yeah. You're wiped out. There just started being deer around where I'm living now. Now I do have them. But yeah, they got wiped out. They got wiped out fast. And by
Yeah,
the 20s, people had cartridge guns, but the population was far smaller than it is today.
that's
Most
right.
of those guns were not as nice as the ones that people are buying today.
Right, that's it.
They weren't as
That's
bad.
it.
It might have been a 22 rifle they had, for Pete's sake.
Yeah, there ain't anybody going into the woods and surviving for very long out of the woods because it's going to get cleaned out. You have to have
Not
livestock.
hunting for meat. You're going to have to know
Right,
how to deal with smaller game, trap,
right.
fish, and you're going to have
Yep.
to know wild animals.
Yes, yes.
I will live out in the forest. I can go through the woods and I can forage and eat. Can the other people
Right,
do that? That's probably not.
exactly.
That's why I'd cover that in some of my videos. My first video on the topic, I covered water.
Mhm.
Everybody thinks food's the most important topic. No, you can live for 30 days
Right.
without food. You're only going to make it maybe at least 3 weeks. You're only going to make it at best, if you're not in a hot desert, at best 3 days without water.
3 days without water. That's right.
So you
Yeah.
know how to purify and sanitize water. And one of the things I taught people is that they don't believe in viruses. Okay, get this. A lot of these water filters you get filter bacteria, but not viruses. You can still get a virus. So it's really important to
Right.
so that don't exist. I don't know what's Greg talking about. Yeah, you can get sick even when the water comes to the source because there is something called viruses. Yeah, the Giardia and the bacteria are the biggest principal problem. But don't drink out of fetid water, for Pete's sake. But if you have to, you better filter it, purify it, sanitize it. I would boil
That's
it.
right.
I'd boil the dickens out of it. Or
Oh, yeah.
use plastic bottles if you get enough UV light in there. It might, if it's clear enough for the sunlight to penetrate. But you got to filter
Sure.
it first. So
Yeah.
there are ways to do that, and I did a video on that. I covered several methods. It's kind of interesting how I can cover stuff like that. And there's other channels out there that will cover a much smaller spectrum, and they get like 100 times more views. It's not really, or or a guy can show, he can talk about silent hunting and talk about and bring up now there's some good channels, they do good stuff. I'm not really ratting them, but why do they get 10 times more views when they show a slingshot in a package, and I'm out actually with a blowgun showing you how to use it, and I got
Right.
slingshots and other things, and I'm not, a blowgun channel. I'm not, and there's probably better videos on that, but definitely, I'm trying to get people in tune with the idea of silent camping, silent hunting. How to
Yeah.
survive. And gray man's got a place, but you better be the
Right.
growing man. You need to grow.
Everybody should know how to do it if they have to. Like we made the decision long ago. The only way we'd ever leave our property is if there was an invading army, because you're not taking on a trained invading military. You're not going to do it.
Bingo.
And that's
Exactly.
the only.
When you absolutely have to run this, when they have artillery.
That's right.
Your fortress will hold off the motorcycle gang.
Right.
Your fortress can hold off marauders. But when
Yes.
they come in with artillery, you got to go.
Game over. You better run.
Game over. Or if they got bombs, but artillery, bombs, it's game over. That will destroy your place. Absolutely. You can't survive. You better get the heck out. And
right.
And I really believe that we can survive for a period in our facilities that we develop, and that will buy us time. But at some point, we may have to go maneuvers. And I'll be talking about those kind of things in the future on my channel, I hope to. So and I'll be showing some things. I'll plan to build this habitat and show it. But then again, I said the opposite thing, that don't drink the worm tea. So it went on a few minutes later. So I also say, you might say, hey, I love my chocolate covered coffee beans. That's on. Here's my coffee.
Those are great. Those are great.
Eats them, yeah, and they go good with coffee. They are good.
Yes.
Don't drink the worm tea, but you can eat dark chocolate covered coffee beans.
They're good.
It might make you a little excited. It might perk you up a little too much, but be careful.
Yes.
So
yes.
Anyways.
Well, Greg, I really appreciate you bringing me on and allowing me the platform to share what I needed to share.
Yeah, you did that. You need to serve. You had a message that needed to get out. We have talked about this for some time, but I just felt like we'd have no more time to waste. People have got to get active right now. They got to get started. And so I really wanted to get you on. I've been wanting to do this for some long time. We've talked about, you and I have talked for some time, for what, a year at least? We've changed email and we chatted.
Yeah, 8 months to a year. Yep. Yeah.
I appreciate you. I appreciate what you do. And yeah, I remember when your channel had a different name, and I've followed you for a while, and you do good stuff. And so everyone, by all means, go subscribe to Stacy's channel, Sustainable Stewards, and the link will be below. And yeah, fortunately we said that this would be up last night or up tonight. It's so late now, the video will probably not perform that well posted tonight. So I'm going to post this video during the day tomorrow, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
And
Sounds good to
we
me.
can stay on the chat for just a minute. But to all the viewers, I thank you. If you watched this far, I really thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it really supports our channels when you watch the videos to the full length. But also we're trying to share with you, and you're also learning about us. And I think we're developing a family here of people
Right.
through the internet. If you're interested in what we're talking about enough to watch this long, then you're in, you know.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you guys and all of you who view this stuff. And I want to say that again, please look at Stacy's channel, subscribe to it, bang the update notification bell. Oh, and I think YouTube has unsubscribed a bunch of people from my channel in the last day or two. You know, a lot of people
They
are
do
subscribed.
that.
I was seeing the numbers going up after my video direction, and I see it drop, go up,
Yeah.
and drop. You know, when you're getting increases, YT tends to take away. So double check that you're subscribed to the channel, and double check that the notification bell is still clicked and it's still all. So that's the way to keep up with us and all the things we're covering. And again, thank you everyone for watching. I'm going to end the video recording now. So everyone stay safe and prepare, get ready,
That's right.
because I think other shoes are going to start dropping. We don't know really what exactly that's going to go down, but I'm expecting other things to happen. I hope I'm wrong, but just
That's right.
prepare.
That's right.
It's insurance. All right, everyone. Thank you for watching.